Hello and welcome to this episode of the Terrace Scottish Football Podcast. I am your host Craig Fowler and I am joined in his lovely abode by Tony Anderson.
Hello, Craig.
Hello,
I lost my voice there. Just a bad start for the season.
That's good for what is surely going to be a 2-hour podcast.
Yeah.
And we are also joined by Craig Cairns. Hello, Craig.
Full of fish tacos.
We're both full of fish tacos. Although I would say there are more fajitas than tacos.
Yeah, probably. But just wraps. But yeah, because tacos are awkward.
Tacos are shells. Those are
They're
wraps.
good. They're good, but they can be awkward. Everything just goes everywhere. So I normally
like
use
a fucking burrito. Though.
Yeah, I did. I really packed mine, and I had two of them. So if I fall asleep at some point during this podcast,
And if
that's why.
anyone's wondering, we'll have to ask, what's that?
It's a Steam Deck.
Wow.
Yeah, this is what Craig Cairns has brought with him to look through each team. I've got my laptop. Tony has his laptop.
Yeah, I'm keeping it real.
And yeah.
Works as a PC.
You've got like a PlayStation.
PC, I watch stuff.
It looks like a control panel you see in like a sci-fi TV show from like the 80s.
It's cool. Like, don't get me wrong. I was just taken aback when I saw it. It looked like a handheld gaming machine.
If you're a giant.
You can.
But it's like a PC equivalent.
So what games have you got for it?
Hunters, man, honestly, I've got loads. I've just been buying up loads in sales, so I kind of go in and out of gaming. So there's loads over the years that I've just classics that I've never played. So I like pick them up for a couple of pounds and play. So I played Enslaved Odyssey to the West.
Can't do that these days.
Based on an Alex Garland novel, which I was quite surprised by because it was from like 2013, and games back then the writing wasn't very good at all.
Because Garland's done Civil War recently, isn't he? And he has done the screenwriting for 20 years later. After he'd done it for 20 days later, Danny Boyle's come back and Cillian Murphy's come back. They've just finished recording it, and it's the whole gang back together. Ralph Fiennes inks in it as well. But there we go, Scottish football.
Yes, but we're not here to talk about that. We are here to talk about the Scottish Premiership. So, if you listened as soon as if you downloaded it as soon as it came out on Monday, you may have listened to the entirety of the 7.5 hours that Sean McGuigan and Craig Telfer recorded for the lower league preview, going through the Championship, League 1 and League 2. 7.5 hours. We're not going to do that for this one, but we'll probably do a similar time to they did for League 2, which was just over 2 hours. Which again shows that that's only 10 teams as well. We've got 12. It shows the depth of their knowledge.
It's incredible, really.
It is. I mean, it's quite something. I mean, somebody in the chat said self-indulgent pish. But it is our most popular podcast of the year. It has been for the last 2 years in a row, and it gets more popular the longer it gets. So that's a response to this.
Turn it into like a marathon thing that people are going to do it for charity. Yeah. Like, I'm going to listen to the whole lower league reviews, Terrace Scottish Football Podcast, and people will be on Just Giving.
Did we not briefly talk about doing that for charity? Doing the thing we would podcast for 24 hours straight?
Well, I would be up for it, but would anyone want to listen to it? Maybe.
Give everybody to charity to make us stop.
Live stream. Yeah. If it gets a certain amount, we'll stop talking.
Do you want us to shut up other than just closing their laptops? You have to give us money.
Yeah. You've not thought this through.
Just watching the ticker all day is just £0 and 0 pence all the way.
Who could have believed it? Poverty still exists.
But so I was saying as well, like there was the complaints or some people online saying it shouldn't be that long, but it is. It's for whatever reason when it became 4 hours. That then made it our most famous or our most listened to podcast that season. Mm-hmm. Then when it was 6 hours last year, people went even more nuts for it. So I'm expecting this to break Terrace podcast records. And
as you said, we're going to do 10, 50 minutes in each team. It's no different than what they do. It's just that they boys are able to do it for 30 bloody teams.
30 teams, aye, exactly.
So fair play them.
Aye, and when you actually break it down, 7.5 hours divided by 30 teams is something only like 15 minutes per team.
Yeah,
so, I don't know. When it got towards the end, I think it was one. I think it was when they'd done Montrose, and it was only like 7 minutes, and they were like apologising. Sorry, we don't have as much to say. That's still 7 minutes. Still 7 minutes more than anybody else that covers the entirety of Scottish football is going to talk of that club. With all due respect to Montrose, a club that is very dear to both our hearts.
Giving them less, even though they took us out.
Right,
we're not biased.
No.
There we go, at least.
So, without further rambling, let's just do it all in alphabetical order like the other shows were, and let's start with Aberdeen. So, last season, Aberdeen finished in 7th place. They did manage 48 points, but that was typically mainly due to the fact that they had a nice run after the after the split under Peter leaving. But it was a funny season for Aberdeen overall, because obviously league campaign not great, but they still had, ultimately they were completely safe. There was no threat of relegation with like 5 games to go or whatever.
Once they removed Warnock, everyone knew.
It was a bit hairy for a second, but ultimately it was fine to stay in the division. Warnock then was just more of a kind of laugh. It was just like, what the hell happened there? So it's just kind of funny. But if you look at like the cup competitions and in Europe, they had some big results. And so even though it was obviously a massive disappointment to drop into the bottom 6, it was still kind of like a fun campaign.
If you're a fan, put it down as one of your more memorable campaigns, I would argue.
I mean, not always fun. It's one of those ones that's... So you can have like seasons like, say like, so to use a Hearts perspective, Craig, like season 03-04. Like Hearts finished third by a mile, good season, but nothing really happened. I don't even remember. Maybe got to the semi-final of the League Cup, but didn't really do anything. Then there's other seasons you have when you look back at them and you talk really fondly about them, even though they might have been a bit more of a disaster because there was just stuff that happened. And last year, stuff certainly happened to Aberdeen.
Yeah, I mean, there were still lots of really low points, though, wasn't there?
Yeah.
The management situation, both under 2 managers, and Robson was getting a lot of... Was it Robson?
Yeah.
For the...
Robson to start with.
He done the European campaign.
But for the semi-final
Yes.
specifically, yeah, there was a lot of how they just didn't really try to have a go in that game.
And then won anyway. You talk about the final.
It's the final.
Well, the semi-final didn't really bother against
Hibs either, but it worked.
But it worked. No, I'm talking about the final. No,
Barry Robson just came with the perfect tactic of just let Hibs beat themselves.
Dylan Evans not going to chase them, so just go.
With 10 men. Yeah, that was extraordinary.
Yeah.
But you're right, you can go back and it's like that one, and although I don't know how much the fans would have enjoyed the 90 minutes, I'm sure all told it would have been a great afternoon, that semi-final against Hibs. But yeah, you're right, there were a few good performances and a couple of results in Europe, but I'm pretty sure they would take the much more stable years back again as a priority, really.
Well, they wanted rid of those stable years, didn't they? That was the thing.
That was the get rid of McInnes.
They were willing to gamble on it. Yeah.
So they're hoping for some sort of stability towards the top of the table with their new manager, Jimmy Thielen, who comes in having managed Elfsborg for 6 years and done a pretty good job with them as well, including almost winning the title in 2023. He takes over a team that retains the majority of last season's side, but it is expected, and you noticed this in the Premier Sports Cup, that Bojan Miłowski is likely to be heading out of Aberdeen. They've reportedly recently knocked back a bid from him from Espanyol. Yep. And
£3 million told them to split.
Yeah, I think they should for $3 million.
They're leaking. They want 6.5, which I don't think is totally.
Probably not going to get as much
5.
as that.
I think you'll go over 5.
I would, if I was an Aberdeen fan, I wouldn't be happy if they got anything less than 5.
Because he's really good. He's at the right age. He's under contract, and he's, in Scottish terms, probably the most complete striker.
He's going to be really difficult to replace. The results so far, you're going to have to take the opposition into account. The real tests are obviously going to come when the league starts, but it does seem that they're already sharing the goals around. I know Miłowski's not really been as heavily involved as some other players, but it already looks like if these are anything to go by, they're already moving away from being reliant on one guy. And from the Here We Go podcast, a good wee stat, is the first Aberdeen manager to win first 4 games since 1977.
That'll come up a
Billy
lot
McNeil.
Coming up because of his League Cup groups.
I was going to say, aye.
Yeah, I'll be getting shared around the whole
Nobody
country.
Aberdeen manager in the past got as easy first 4 games as he got.
Funnily enough, it was like I think it was the group stages in the 70s, League Cup group stages, because it was you played the same team. You were 3-team groups. And you played home and away because they played 2 games was Cowdenbeath, and I can't remember who the other one was, Alloa or something along those lines.
Fucking hell, the opening days of the season, you're playing 2-legged games against the lower leagues. No offence, lower leagues, but that sounds boring.
Old Airdrie. Old Co-Airdrie.
There seems to be, the fans seem quite positive about Thielen.
Yes.
And it seems like right away, they haven't made the sweeping wholesale changes that people may have expected, but there does seem to be an instant difference in the way they play. There seems to be an instant identity in that, and he's doing things in games where he's influenced them a bit.
Well, having not seen much of them so far, just kind of looking at the squad, so I don't really know. I did watch the Airdrie game, and they were good going forward and probably shouldn't have been losing at half time, but Airdrie, particularly in that first half, had maybe a worrying amount of space amongst the Aberdeen rearguard and probably could have scored at least one more than they actually did. But in terms of kind of what you were talking about not much change. I think that's fine for Aberdeen. Because they've signed a lot of players from kind of big money last summer. So the chances of, even if they wanted to get rid of some of them, would probably be quite hard, because I'd imagine that they're on wages above what they've shown in an Aberdeen jersey. Yeah. But at the same time, there's guys like Rubišić, I think, with a full season in Scottish football behind them, and maybe a bit more of a settled defence, or better defence alongside him, because Gavin Malloy's come in. He's really impressed so far in the League Cup games. He might play well. Esther Sokler, I'm expecting. In fact, I'll tell you right now, I put a tenner. Sorry, 5 each way, but a tenner in total on Esther Sokler to finish top goal scorer in the Premiership this year. I think it was 33-1.
See, this is where I think maybe there's the worries for Aberdeen that I would go to. Is I think they're sitting there hoping a lot of things work. They assume Duke's away, Miofsky's probably off. You've got Sokler, Ambrose, and Gay, and he was all right.
I don't know if Gay. I've been seeing him last season. I know he did well on loan, and
he's played well in League Cups again.
But considering the opposition, I'm going to take that with a pinch of salt.
And then you've got like Morris and Duncan.
But everybody gets a fresh start. That's what you're meaning.
But everyone forward, it's a lot of. I hope they're all better. Where they're being like.
But what I would say is that, unlike Gay, Rubišić and Sokler, I think you saw those glimpses last year that with a bit more time to settle, or just for Sokler, just the chance to have a run in the team, that they will be good players. And the other big name as well is Leighton Clarkson, who is, we saw the year before last, very good player. Last season he was generally rubbish, but also had a very good end to the campaign when he had a manager that knew what to do with him.
That's a really good point as well, because it looks like in these little clips I've seen of them and what I've been reading, they are hunting in packs, which is kind of what was...
Yeah, that's what he wants to do.
They try and play football, and if you've got Shinnie, McGrath and Clarkson, you've got to presume that they will be really good at that.
I think so, yeah. I think that's why he wants Shinnie further forward as well. I think, if I'm not mistaken, he could play a wee bit further forward when he was down at Derby at one point.
I think you're right.
Shinnie.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they pushed him further forward. He was definitely getting involved in more attacks when he was down there than he maybe has when he's played up here overall.
Yeah.
But I think Aberdeen also have quite a, I'm just going to get them here, quite a favourable league start as well. St Johnstone, St Mirren at home, Kilmarnock at home, Ross County away, Motherwell at home. That's a really good chance to get off to a good start.
And if you get lucky as well, the two teams that are better could be coming off the back of European games as well.
Yeah, aye. So
I think their big problem at this moment
favourable cup draw as well, sorry.
Yeah, but that's good for Teal, and that's exactly what you want. And to the point on Shinnie, so Shinnie is getting pushed further forward, so is Clarkson, because they've signed Sivert Nielsen, who is pretty much just a defensive midfielder. He's just a big guy that loves to tackle.
Kick folk.
And I think that's exactly what Aberdeen need. Further forward, like I say, I think Sokler's going to have a good season. Where they really need to strengthen between now and the end of the window is on the wings.
Yeah.
Because they're starting with Shayden Morris and Jamie McGrath. And over the course of the campaign, I don't think it's going to get it done.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And that's what I was saying. There's a lot up, and in the front areas, there's a lot of hope rather than expectation. And there may be varying sort of like chinks of light about who could be the improver. You're using Sok as an example, but the rest you're like, I'm not convinced. Bazayan's back, for example.
I've always liked him, so maybe he'll get a chance. But the fact is that he's not been preferred to Morris so far. Maybe speaking volumes. So
you've got to think that if they've only signed, 4 players so far, so they had Meathoff, who you've just got to presume. You're just like, I mean, as a Hibs fan, I was furious.
Aye, so was that. I was angry at St Johnstone. I was like, what are you doing? Why? Stop that.
300 grand. I'm like, that is just like, is for last season as a whole, that is like the surest thing you can get. Meathoff wasn't just one of the best goalies in the league. Meathoff was arguably one of the best players in the league last season overall.
And that's the reason St Johnstone didn't get relegated.
Yes. And it's like they just went and got him for 300 grand unopposed. I was like, what the fuck's going on? So that annoyed me. So, but they've got him coming in. Jensen doesn't seem to fancy. Malloy got a couple of assists as well in the groups. And we still don't know about Malloy because he's played well in those games, but he's coming from Shelbourne.
Yeah, aye.
So but it looks like there's a bit of faith in him, and it looks like he's going straight in with him.
What you can say about that, and what you can say about a lot of players that we'll talk about having played well in the League Cup group stages against weaker opposition, is that yes, you're playing well against weaker opposition, but you're also playing better than a lot of your teammates.
Yeah.
So that should count for something.
Yeah, and I think sometimes, and doing well in it's surely better than doing badly. And if you're thumping teams, and the only team that gave them a bit of bother was Airdrie, but I'd argue quite a few teams would have a bit of bother.
I think that's a good sign as well, because he faced a wee bit of adversity and they came through it. I think all told, it's like a solid start from him, and I think there's a lot of promising signs there from Tellin. And there was all this talk about patience before he came in, and he's got off to a good start where he's already built up, I know it's just the League Cup, he's built up a wee bit of credit. He's not like still struggling to put it together or anything.
And that's really important if you're a foreigner coming in. I mean, it sounds daft, but it's the truth.
No, I think you're right.
Coming in, you can get one thing goes wrong, you're questioned.
That's
and
it.
if
Don't know the game.
If Thielen can get through the whole season with his job being questioned, with a cup run, which looks very, very possible, at least just with the League Cup straight away, and maybe finishing in the top 5, he'll get another year. And that's more than. And for a guy who's talking about a project, I'd say that's probably a good sign.
Yeah.
Right. Before we move on, predictions. Where are they finishing?
5th or 6th.
Which one? 5th. Craig?
I'm going to go 4th. I think they'll do well under Thielen.
I previously said 3rd. However, having laid everything out, so I said this in my column last week that we finished 3rd. To be fair, Hearts have not finished best of the rest 2 seasons in a row in 20 years. So it's very possible it could happen. Especially
and you've got Europe.
Got Europe, especially if some team just comes in my daft off.
So I was swithering between.
If there's a championship team, they're just like, oh, we need the goal scorer. Our goal scorer's got injured for the season. Let's pay $3 million for that guy in Scotland, and then Shankland goes. So it could still happen. I think the way the teams are assembled right now, you have to say Aberdeen. I would have to put them 4th, but I could definitely see them finishing 3rd.
I just feel like I think we'll come on to later on. Is it Kilmarnock? Not a lot of change, and they might just be able to. And with the manager, that it might just keep them on par with what they've already achieved.
We'll get to that later. Let's go now to Celtic. Last season saw the Parkhead club win the double with a league triumph that became a lot more hairier than I think a lot of people thought it was, especially early in the campaign when Rangers were moved into getting rid of Michael Beale in the autumn. But Celtic kind of then started to sleepwalk a bit, and then ultimately they rode it back up towards the end of the campaign. This summer so far, and it does seem like they're closing in on bringing back Adam Ida and Paulo Bernardo to the club, at least that's according to some reports. But so far they've only signed 2 goalkeepers. So are we gearing up for another season where Celtic are just so dominant domestically that it's boring even for them, and they do absolutely nothing on the continent?
Yes. I'm actually going to just do something that I was going to say at the start. This is going to be the season of lack of ambition. You're going to hear it from every single fan base. And you'll hear it for Hearts because Rangers have done poorly and they've looked like they're going to have a crap season. So Hearts fans will moan because they've not closed the gap there.
Fucking that. The closing of that gap, honestly.
And then Celtic, because again, they are... I'm just going to say it. I don't know. I can't prove this. Pound for pound must be one of the least ambitious clubs on the planet. It's absolutely frightening.
They've done this. It doesn't seem that long ago that they stood still while Rangers were in crisis and were a few years down the line, and they're doing it again. So basically, they've brought in 2 goalkeepers to replace 2 outgoing goalkeepers, and they're bringing back 2 loan players from last season, and otherwise, that's it. That's it.
And they can say
there
what
will
they
be more. There will be more, especially
more.
In defence. They desperately need a couple of central defenders.
Surely think that Liam Scales. I thought Liam Scales was better than a lot of people said he was last season, but you're surely not starting the season with Liam Scales as your left side.
No, and Lagerbielke is going to be out. Who's is it Navrocki as well? I don't think he's got a future. So
Welsh is surely going. They've been trying to get rid of the Welsh for decades.
No. They can give him a new contract because he can play in Europe. Or he can sit on the bench.
I was just about to say he'll be in the Champions League squad.
And they can say what they like, but Bernardo and Ida were squad players last season. So, I mean, all they're doing is replenishing that.
I do think he's got something about him, though.
Ida, under Rodgers, Ida might overtake.
To be fair, I think you would say they are squad players because you would maybe argue they wouldn't get in their first choice 11, and I wouldn't necessarily say that about Ida with the way that Rodgers likes to play, but with Bernardo, he was kind of the first reserve as well. So I think they were a bit. To call them squad players are more kind of like James Forrest.
It's not a criticism of them though, but I'm just saying it's not making them any better than what they are, and they're likely going to lose O'Reilly. And again, it's this. They would argue.
You can say they get to sell O'Reilly, they'll spend money, but then they've got lots of money.
But that's what I mean. They don't have to wait. They don't have to wait to get O'Reilly out. And even if they come to a situation where they buy someone else and O'Reilly doesn't move, that's still not a problem. You can still do it.
Their entire the way they've spent money during the entire Law era is basically if Rangers are crap, then they're pretty much assured of winning the league. Then they don't show any ambition.
Yeah, if they spend £10, we'll spend £5.
I mean, publicly, Rodgers.
It works out quite well because Rangers just explode like rat bags every couple of years.
No, they're spending $2.7 million on a 30-year-old defender.
They couldn't have had a better environment to really push on as a club. And in Europe, they were in a position to take piles of risks, and never falling back on their face. And like that. It seems,
they've got the player trading model right, which is what Rangers haven't done. They've like we're talking about O'Reilly now. They're at the point now where either the January that just passed or the summer window, that's the prime time to sell, and that's when you're going to get peak value for them. And they're doing it. They're in the process of doing it. The issue is that, as we're saying, they don't. They seem to stand still far too often. But they're going to walk the league. They're just going to dick. Unfortunately, they've got about as difficult a start to the league as you could give them, but they're still going to dick over just about everybody.
Yeah, but Rodgers did say publicly he needed 3 or 4 quality signings, and that's what's today? Wednesday. The season starts on Saturday. Yeah. It's just like it would seem frustrating. I thought the reason he came back, the reason he came back is because he paid them fucking absolute mental money. Yeah, but he claimed the reason he came back is because he wanted to take a punt at the Champions League. You'll never get a better time to take the punt in this Champions League. The other team that's going to chase you is falling to pieces.
And also it might disappear after the end of next season.
So this is the time to do it. Again, this is when I come onto the lack of ambition. Honestly, every single team, you can figure out a way of when they go say it because people around them aren't going to do it. And that's it. It's absolutely bonkers. And I think the Celtic fans are raging. The way I look at it, they get raging all the time, and then they hump Rangers at one point, and then Lowell goes, right, I'll be fine now. They're going to go out for the night. But they're not happy.
One thing that's maybe going to kind of even itself out a little from last year is that even if O'Reilly goes and we expect him to go, and say Bernardo comes in and he's number 1 or they sign somebody else, at least this campaign you're more obviously injuries can happen at any point, but you're more likely to get a full season out of Rio Hatate, and he was a huge loss.
Unless they sell him. Leicester are genuinely interested in that, but from what I looked at, genuinely interested. And again, if they sell O'Reilly and Hatate, they just won't sign as good players. They won't. I don't believe that they'll go straight out and they'll sign as good players there.
It'd definitely be difficult.
Hatate was luck. It was some cause of Postecoglou.
Well, that's the thing. Their model is you go out and you buy the potential again, don't you? And that's not always going to have the success rate of an O'Reilly or a Hatate.
None of their, off the top of my head, I might be wrong about this, but off the top of my head, none of their kind of punts last year worked out at all.
Oh, it was a bit of a disaster.
They usually get one. So maybe this year they'll sign somebody for $2 million and then he'll win Player of the Year, whoever that player is going to be.
They've sold all for $4.5 million, eh? That was a decent bit.
Yeah, but I more mean like performance-wise, he didn't really get much out of him.
He was the season before though. He was January.
Was he? Right.
So last year was like Yang and.
Wow.
But there are.
He was appalling.
You could say,
and then all the centre halves were fucking mints.
You could say some of these guys who are a bit younger who might just improve with a year of being in Scotland. Yang possibly being one of them, but more kind of thinking Kwon, who looked really quite good at St Mirren. Awata was. Kind of as the season went on, started to do a bit more. Thiago Home, maybe.
Craig.
I'm just throwing out. I'm throwing out kind of best case scenarios for this model to work for Celtic.
Not him.
And it's Taylor. Taylor sounds like he might be going out the door as well. That seems to be building up a bit of pace.
Okay, well here's something. Will this finally be the year that Mikey Johnson makes a thing of himself at Celtic? He was very good on loan at West Brom.
Yeah, he was very good.
Has he been playing in the friendlies? I've not been looking at that.
I think he was. I believe he was.
And the friendlies, and for Celtic fans who are like, fucking hell, this is negative. They absolutely thumped Chelsea.
And they love Kuhn. They love Kuhn now.
And they beat Man City.
He was brilliant.
Yeah, Dundee also beat Man City once before a friendly as well, so let's not go too
Hearts beat Man City 5-1 in a friendly, and Andy Dibble was in goals.
That was the season Man City got relegated. And that was...
Well, yeah, that's what that matter. The season Man City were shit. But it's not the same thing. It's apples and oranges.
Man City were good, but Dundee beat them.
Oh, right, okay.
They're about 2 or 3 weeks behind in their preparation.
Yeah, of course they are. But you're going to feel good if your team's doing that.
Yeah. And Rangers are, at the same time, struggling against
Birmingham.
These teams.
Birmingham, yeah.
And another thing to point out, this is the last year of James McCarthy's contract.
Is he still fucking
he's still there.
Why have they never just loaned him out just so he can have fun?
Let me double check that, because I didn't notice that James Poker hadn't updated his squad list yet. Not a criticism, he's too busy getting every single transfer coming into Scottish football at this moment. But let's see, James McCarthy, still a Celtic player.
So if Rangers weren't all over the place, clearly struggling to recruit, the stadium problems, so they're trying to keep money, etc., etc. Do we think Celtic would be buying? I do.
Yes.
If they were closer, yeah, I think so.
That's what they've done the
entire time. So shit.
The Dialect era, like, let's just hoard as much cash as possible. And then as soon as Rangers beat them in that semi-final, who's the most expensive manager we can get at this point in time to make sure Rangers don't win the league next season?
Just so boring.
Right, prediction, everybody said first.
Oh, fuck, of course.
Yeah, by a good distance.
This time, yeah.
Yeah, actually, my big prediction, I think, is that somebody else is going to win. In fact, Celtic will win the league, Rangers will win nothing, and two other teams will win cup competitions this year. There's my bold prediction.
Oh, it's wrong, but
Along with my shocker shout. And
Celtic won the treble. Cool. All the best.
Celtic pretty much get a bite of the quarterfinals in the League Cup as well. They get like a seeded draw. It started with a seeded draw in the last 16.
And they're playing fucking Hibs.
Oh, right. I wasn't meaning about the opponent. I suppose they got a decent opponent for a more difficult opponent than they could have got.
Oh, yeah.
Right, so let's move to Dundee, the first of two Dundee teams to speak about back-to-back, because United are back in the top flight, but we're not talking about them yet. We are talking about the side at Dens, who enjoyed a terrific first season back in the top flight last campaign, finishing in the top six and being one of the most enjoyable teams to watch in the division. Tony Docherty proved all the doubters wrong, but it will be interesting to see what happens this campaign, because last season he really leaned on the loan market into very good success. Think about the success they did last year, Owen Beck being the prime example of how they were able to utilise that well. So Beck's not coming back, neither is Amadou Bakayoko, Malachi Boateng, who looks on the verge of signing for Hearts, and even though none of these guys were standouts, you still had like Aaron Donnelly and Owen Dodgson, who were doing kind of a job. Dodgson a bit more as the season was coming to a conclusion, but guys who were contributing, and now all of them have gone. They've also lost kind of not big misses, but like guys like Ricky Lamy and Zach Robinson who were part of the squad, and Joe Shaughnessy is also out for most of the season.
Yeah, that's a bit of a nightmare, because that's just, guys like Shaughnessy, you're just, even if you start improving around you, you just know it's a guarantee. Just pop them in, you know it's going to be okay. At least
they've tried a few different players in the centre of the back three since, and none have really done as well as nearly as good a job as Shaughnessy does in there.
And is it a back three for Dundee again?
It will be a back three.
Yeah, that's what he's been playing now.
Certainly from the way they've signed as well, because two of their more impressive signings in the summer were Ethan Ingram, who is a right wing back who comes in, I believe, from West Brom. I should have noted that down.
And Larkick.
He was on loan somewhere else last season, but he's coming from West Brom.
Yes, and was that how you pronounce it? Larkick?
That's what I've went for. I mean, I can't believe I got I mean, I'm pretty famous for my lack of pronunciations.
Me too, Tony. Zaid Larkesh. Let's go for that.
I asked Gary about Ingram because I was interested in him. And I got a quote of, like Beck, but on the right-hand side. Okay, I'll have to see that.
So I've looked at the stats of both of them and kind of what kind of players they are. Larkesh runs with the ball loads but can't cross for shit. Ingram doesn't run with the ball quite as much, but is a much better crosser.
Yeah, I've heard that his delivery is really, really good. But then it's Simon Murray, so delivery could be good. Murray's good at making dart and runs to the front post and all that type of stuff. His movements, one of his a good trait of his.
That brings us on to a kind of key point of Dundee, and I think this will decide whether they finish in the top six or the bottom six, is whether Simon Murray can replicate what he did for Ross County last year, because that's obviously what Dundee are trying to buy. But he's 32, and while he got over 20 goals for County last season, it was 14 in the league and 37 appearances. Now he does a lot more than that with his.
It's pretty good for the worst team in the league.
That is fair. But at 32 years old, is he going to get to that tally again? Is he going to get as high as 14? That was the only season really in his top flight career when he looked like a top flight player. Is it kind of like a one season wonder job at this level? Because at this point, especially with the fact that so much of his game's about running and being really fast, that is going to start to. It hasn't shown much sign of it yet, to be fair to him, but that's going to start to deplete, and that's going to make it a bit more difficult.
It's like the bit madness of like the 3-year deal plus the salary. And I mean, I'm assuming they paid like 150k for him, and I'm assuming he's on at least $3,000 a week. He surely went there as one of their main earners, would be considering other clubs were
given his goal return last season, he would have been able to demand. And there was although it could have been the agent using it to increase the wages, but the interest from other clubs as well would have meant that he had a stronger hand as well in what he's asking for.
Looking like that's going to be like a 700-800 grand.
But the board backed him. The board backed him to bring in Curtis Main when he did last season. He wasn't really in favour. It looks like he's got more of an eye to playing him this season, and I think that could be quite a decent partnership.
That looks like a nightmare, to be honest, to play against. It does.
Yes, and I was going to say that the looking at the positive is that Curtis Main, because he arrived back in January, wasn't good, but he kind of looked like he'd really been enjoying himself in India, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Before, and didn't look as fit.
I think it was Bengal.
Didn't look as fit as the player that left St Mirren to go abroad to begin with. But with a pre-season under his belt, Docherty whipping him into shape, he might kind of return to that St Mirren form, and that would be huge if it did, because I'm not sold on, what's his name again?
Palmer Holden?
Yes, because...
Did I get that right?
Bristol City loanee, but he was in League 2 last season and really didn't score many goals in League 2, and just kind of seems like more of a facilitator than a goal scorer.
Yeah.
And if Murray's goals drop off, then they'll... And Curtis Main started scoring towards the end of the St Mirren, but...
We're talking about now the person is the goal scorer. Main's a facilitator as well. He's a big... facilitates through his elbows.
Then they got, with the exception of... I was going to say Leo Cameron. Cameron does score goals, but Luke McCowan, who scored at double figures last year, although he does take penalties... They've got goals around the team, I think is maybe what you'd say about them if you're looking on the positives. I do wonder, though, if they... I think Dundee are going to slip into the bottom 6 this season. By no means relegation bother. I think Docherty's too good a coach and a manager for that. I think their squad's too strong for... Especially to be down at the bottom with
Absolutely.
3 teams
nowhere near relegation
that we're going to come on to. But I think they might have a little bit of a regression, mainly as well because I think that teams are... Well, I certainly think Aberdeen are going to get better. So I think that by itself would knock them out of the top 6, and I think it's tight between them and St Mirren in terms of the squads. We'll obviously get on to talk about St Mirren later, but I don't know, something about this Dundee team, I just kind of think they've maybe lost a wee bit too much, and I'm not sure they've replenished it in their defence, because they've also got Clark Robertson in this summer. He's injured until at least the first international break, so they're starting the season with 2 of their more experienced defenders.
Because Luke Graham's looks like he might get a run as a centre half, and I think they've been quite excited about him and Josh Mulligan is one of the central midfielders. He's like been a box-to-box, tenacious number 8 that might suit them a bit. I know it's not quite as subtle as... Oh, sorry, I've just forgotten his name. The guy who signed for Hearts, who was there last season.
Malachi Boateng.
That doesn't sound quite as subtle because Boateng was just a really, really neat and tidy player, and he'd take the ball in tight areas and all that. But they might be able to thrash their way through it if they're bringing in... If they've got this boy as a box-to-box and Simon Murray and Main, I don't think they're going to be quite as neat and tidy, because Dundee were really easy on the eye last season, but the players that are coming in now, it seems that they might be accepted that Docherty just doesn't have the guys to do that again.
They do still have that strong midfield core though. Silla got better as the season progressed. McCowan and Cameron don't need to really go into... It's obvious what they contributed. I suppose it'll depend on whether they hold on to both of those. That could be
the big thing.
A big factor in their season, aye.
Because they've got a chance. Like they got a brilliant draw in the League Cup. They not get Spartans. Was that right in thinking that?
Can't remember who Hearts got.
They got a home draw, and it was against a lower league outfit.
Airdrie. Is it Airdrie?
I mean, here we go. We're all
League Cup fixtures.
Yeah, you do that. But I mean, that means like... And
Airdrie at home.
I don't mean to be... Yes, I do mean to be disparaging. But like a good season for Dundee next season would be if they got to like 7th and they maybe beat Dundee United a couple of times and they fucking finally, for the love of God, went to Hampden. I don't mean when you play Rangers. I mean in the actual cup. Go to Hampden. That would be brilliant. And I think Docherty's got the ability to do that. They'll beat Airdrie at home.
Yeah.
And then just... You could get a good draw again, then you've done it, and then the problem for them again is keeping McCowan, but they'll be eventually keeping Docherty.
One other thing they need to be a little bit concerned about going into the season is that it's still kind of up for grabs who the goalkeeper is, because Trevor Carson towards the end of last season started to look a bit creaky after looking really good for the first 6 months.
Well, he made the best goalkeeping error of the season.
Brilliant.
Absolutely brilliant. Somebody needs to make music like that.
Doug chasing the plastic bag when he gave away the penalty at Easter Road, So he started the last game, I believe, but McCracken started the other ones. I think that's right, or maybe it was 2 each. Can't quite remember. But it seems Docherty stopped making his mind on that. I think Dundee fans are kind of fine. McCracken think he's decent.
I think he's got a lot of potential. I really like McCracken. He's really got his head screwed on as well. I think he's one to watch, really. I mean, I think with a dearth of goalkeepers coming through at Scotland international level, I'd say there's an outside chance that if he continues and fulfills his potential, I think we could be looking at him as one of our squad goalkeepers at least, or one of our options. I really do think he's going to go places, even if he falls short of being an international level goalkeeper. I do like McCracken.
So predictions?
7th.
That's exactly what I've got.
9th.
I've just forgotten. I've not written anything down, so you'll see soon when I have 3 teams 6th.
I say 9th. I've got to make it clear. Well clear of 10th.
Okay.
Well clearative. They're in the globe. They're in the globe.
Because
I can't really decide between those. Like 5th to 9th is really difficult to place, I think.
To be fair,
I think they'll lose McKibben as being the. I think they will lose.
To be
fair,
They have to sell.
I made one of the bold predictions I made in my latest column for the Herald. And now that I've kind of looked at the teams, I'm like, not entirely as confident in that as I once was.
The Dundee United one, yeah, because I read that as well, and I was like, when you were, I think, because we're moving on to them now. That was what was the phrase? Like experience and quality at the top level. I was looking through it. I'm interested to hear who these guys are.
I was just thinking off the top of my head, Ryan Strain, who's out till December.
Yeah.
Declan Gallagher, who's fucking ancient.
Who's he didn't come out to the media and say he's not lost his legs. I think when you're doing that, there's an issue.
Ross Graham, who had about a decent 3 months at some point before. Kevin Holt, who was terrible at Dundee.
Yeah.
Tony Watt,
who's playing for the B team.
Sibbald, I suppose.
Louis Moult, who's injured half a season.
Yeah, he's going to be. I wasn't sure about that phrase.
But
I knew it was Gary Cocker.
I'm sticking with it. Dundee United. So last season they won the championship title, returning to the top flight the first time of asking, and doing so they wavered, but that was mainly because Wraith Rovers were a particularly strong runner-up for the championship, and in a few recent seasons, the 60...
it was a very dominant, all told, it was a very dominant league campaign.
I think the 68 points that Wraith finished with would have, in many years, won them the title. But
I think it was the best second place. I can't remember in how many seasons going back, but only Rangers finishing second had a better second place points total in the championship or something along those lines. Going back 10, 15 years, I can't remember exactly.
So they were strong title winners.
What did Ross County do to Wraith? The second worst team in the league.
But Tony, to fire back at you, a stat which does bode well for them is
You
the
get caught in the crossfire there. I didn't even mean to.
there hasn't been
walked into it.
There hasn't been a second tier champion relegated back again at the end of the following season since Dunfermline in 2011-12.
I don't think they'll get relegated, but again, it's nothing to do with them though.
I'm just backing up the finish 8th, to be fair.
One position above Dundee.
Yeah.
So that was your whole column was basically 9th and 8th. Oh wow, bold.
The main column was based on another team finishing bottom, by the way. I should point that out. But yeah, despite all this, despite the fact that I think they've recruited fairly well this summer, I've been certainly intrigued by a lot of their signings, and a couple of them in particular have come up really well.
Trapanovsky and Babunski.
Both of them look very good in pre-season, but despite this, despite the 75 points last year, despite the fact history is pretty much on their favour going into this campaign, Jim Goodwin is still under quite a degree of pressure because he's the lowest odds with the bookmakers to be the first manager sacked.
That's what I wanted to. The first thing I wanted to say, I actually fear for Jim Goodwin. I think that crowd can be really unforgiving. There's a number of new players from other leagues as well who do look like they've signed pretty handily. I like the look of Will Ferry as well. I do think that they've got a decent squad there, but again, I'm going to look through the games here. So Dundee, they got the derby to begin with. St Mirren at home. That's 2 tough home games to start with. Sorry, Ross County away and Hearts away coming up in their 5th game. So it's not as bad as I thought it was. But I think there's a possibility that they don't get off to a good start and the crowd are on Goodwin's back.
They're already waiting to be. They want to be.
Sorry, I actually thought that their run of fixtures to start the league was a bit more difficult than that, and I put St Mirren in there when it's the cup game. But I
think
that
still matters. It still matters in terms of building.
The point
up the
still
pressure.
stands.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be a really difficult spell for Jim Goodwin because there's already noises during the League Cup campaign, the unconvincing League Cup campaign they had, and any time they started to slip up last season, they were on his back. So yeah, I do fear
He's
for
not a
Jim
popular
Goodwin.
manager.
No.
Babunski sounds like a bar Kenny Powers would go to.
He also
there's another good stat is that Jim Goodwin has now lost to a lower league team in each of the last 4 cup competitions he's entered.
Yeah,
which is quite something.
And not just lower league. I mean, like shocking results. Spartans and
Spartans and Darvel.
Yeah, some of the worst of the their entire
Falkirk twice. I think I'm right.
Their club's history. Yeah.
The Falkirk one isn't so bad, but if you're following it up with all those other ones, when you're following up with it a year after Darvel, then it's. But yeah, I think Babunski looks really good.
He's been given the armband.
Well, I think he wore it for either for one game or he took it during a game or something like that. But yeah, he was wearing the captain's armband the other day. Already seems to be the fans seem to be taking to him. He seems to be a classy midfielder. He's a personality. Trapanovsky looks like he's got something about him.
Yeah, I like look at him. His stats really stood out in terms of the fact he does everything you want a winger to do. Takes on his man loads, crosses loads, shoots loads.
Yeah, can go both ways. And Seville's, I don't know if you pronounce that like that, but it looks like they're struggling to find a position for him. They tried him at right centre back,
they're trying
wing back, and midfield.
Replace Strain.
Well, and I think that seems to be a bit of a failed experiment. I think you'll probably see either Miller Thompson or Liam Grimshaw playing there, unless they go out and get somebody else in the loan market or something like that. I don't know.
Some of the reading I've done, he's meant to be the guy who's meant to be the ball player.
Yes.
Out for the back.
And then they've moved him to right wing back, and then it's like 3 no-nonsense defenders.
Yeah, and it's very slow.
Yeah.
Because the big problem is that the middle of the team, I know they've brought this, is it Odada?
Yeah,
for the MLS.
They're missing a bit in midfield,
and he might be taking Docherty out the team, and like he might be doing a similar job. Docherty,
but Docherty's taking himself out the team by never being fit.
And then he's got playing alongside Sibbald, and it starts to like, does that get soft? And then their back three is slow as shit. How susceptible to the counter attack is that team? And to be fair, it's unfortunate because he seems really wedded to the three at the back. 3-4-3 seems to be the avenue he wants to go down. Goodwin, and that was based on Strain, man. That's what I mean. The whole Strain's like
Ferry looks like, because Ferry looks like he can drive forward with the ball. I have like the look at him.
Yeah, so it's like he's went out and the 2 big signings that he's maybe pushed out to get, like said the board, I need these guys, Strain and Ferry. They're the ones. And Strain was a huge sign. Again, I'm sure most of the league was pretty jealous that Strain was getting picked up by the fucking promoted team.
This is the problem last season though. He was he missed a lot of the time, and then when he came back, he didn't look fully fit. He's finally living up to his nickname. That's his surname. It's not a nickname.
Old Strainy Balls.
Yes.
Goals is a question mark.
I was going to say that.
Sorry.
I think that's a...
Louis Moult, do we know if he's going to have
sorry. I thought you meant in goals, because I was going to say Jack Walton.
Right.
Jack Walton is...
He had a few dodgy moments during the League Cup, didn't he?
And also, I just wonder about these goalies who are... Like, you see them in the Championship and fans are like, oh, he's good. That's fine. He'll be a solid goalie next year. I mean, it's a big leap up. Just look at what Josh Ray's been up to so far.
What was impressive about him, I think part of what was impressive about him was that he wasn't Mark Birighitti. Yeah, but I think that he was one of these goalkeepers who, because Dundee United were so dominant, he didn't have a lot to do in lots of matches, but when he was called into action, pretty much every time. I remember one mistake he made at home to Queen's Park, and it stood out for being like a huge error because he just hadn't made them the whole season. So yes, he's going to be put under a lot more pressure, and he's still fairly young for a goalkeeper as well.
So when you're talking about the problem with a potential lack of goals at the other end, you're not convinced by Jort van der Sande?
The jorts. Get your jorts on. Nah, yeah.
To be fair, I've seen people say like, oh, he's come for the Dutch second tier, and then Dutch football goals are like dog years.
Yes.
But is that not more to do with when they go to like English football or something?
Yeah, when they come to Scotland.
We're using Sam Lammers, because Cyril Dessers, by the way, even though he's rubbish, scored loads of goals.
Yes, I think so. I think you're
Tony's got his hand up.
I have no idea. 2 seconds, just on jorts.
Mr. Anderson, put your hand down.
Just on sanding your jorts. I think that I've no idea if he's going to be any good or not, but Moult, we still don't know. I mean, he's desperate to prove people wrong like he was when he came in the door 12 months ago, and there seems to be an issue with Tony Watt. Not that you would have been that relying on Tony Watt anyway. Yeah, exactly.
Surprised that Tony Watt's once every 3 years must go off the rails.
He's already done it once at United as well. He's already had the loan spell away.
Throwing a chicken at Jim Goodwin.
Yeah. It's just but the old dog here saying taking Terveni. And that's just happened.
To be fair, though, and we'll get to it soon enough, I think Dylan Vetti's going to be good this season.
Oh, here we go. But we'll wait for that. Yes. But I mean, what's the other? I'm trying to check. What's the other option for right wing back then? Obviously, if Strain's going to be free,
Miller Thompson,
the young Thompson. Yeah. So
Grimshaw.
So they'll have to go with. Grimshaw is one of those that he can run. He's one of those who runs at full pelt and he just absolutely smashes the
thing
cross.
Is, he's actually okay. He's so, see when he gets ahead of steam, he can actually carry the ball really well, but he's just not always got it under control.
I read an article he wrote recently, and I know this, you shouldn't do this, but it always takes you by surprise. And I think this is a lesson for fans as well as people that do what we do. And that you should not compare the man they are on the park with the man they are off the park. Because you always equate that, like, especially if a player's like especially if a bit of a hothead.
Scott Brown's a decent example of that.
And it's always like, he's a prick, he's an absolute like weapon. You think like he's just a thug, like off the park, he's just kind of like walking in the street, like scaring grannies in the middle of the road or whatever.
Jim Goodwin's another good example.
But So Liam Grimshaw's opposite that, because you watch him play, and you just think, well, he just must be the guy who's just kind of
hammer thrower.
Hammer thrower. All he cares about is playing football.
EDL.
Has to remember to tell himself to breathe, kind of thing. But he wrote this article, and I was like, fucking hell, you're a much better writer than I am. So fair play, Liam Grimshaw.
Oh, he's like really insightful.
He was writing about why.
Or just been doing spelling.
Why? No, but I know he's like just his grammar and some of the words he was using. I was like, oh, this is good. I know. Virgin at Kenny McIntyre territory here, we saying, oh, he speaks so well.
He writes so well. Fowler's coined a new phrase. Because normally we presume, I mean, why do you not say that about Tam McManus?
Right, let's get predictions on United. Now that we've discussed Liam Grimshaw's literary prowess.
9th.
Yeah, exactly the same again.
8th.
Yeah, well, yeah, because you've got them above Dundee, which I know you're regretting a little bit, but you put in print already.
I've committed now.
Yeah.
I also put in print the next team was going to finish 4th, and I've kind of already backtracked on that already. But anyway, next up is Hearts. So finished 3rd last season, an absolute canter, racking up 68 points in Stephen Naismith's first season in charge permanently. They also reached the semi-finals of both cup competitions and saw Lauren Shanklin clean up at the Player of the Year awards. And pretty much they're running it all back. Alex Cochrane is the only real high-profile departure so far, as he joined Birmingham City for a fee roughly just over £1 million, with only a year left on his deal. And Hearts have done their kind of usual and going abroad and picking up some players, or two players, Gerald Taylor and Musa, or Dremen Musa, is it the way? It's Dremen Musa, isn't it?
Aye, Musa's, aye.
He's
going to be getting called Musa anyway. Yeah.
He's kind of projected to be something more of a kind of project player, and
I hate when I read that.
Around the first team squads, but not getting as many opportunities like Vargas last year. Kind of
Matthew Cudjoe.
But most of Hearts' business has been picking up the likes of Jan Danda, Blair Spittle, James Penrice, kind of the best players from the bottom six last season, and although he didn't play for a bottom 6 team, Malachi Boateng is, by the time this podcast comes out, might even be a Hearts player, as Hearts are saying that they're going to sign somebody on either on Wednesday night when we're recording this or on Thursday morning. So, Tony, I know you are a little bit sceptical about this. Do you think these, instead of filling out a squad with dependable players that will supplement the guys that got Hearts third last year, do you think Hearts might even be weighted down by signing too many players who might belong on the other half of the league?
It's not that I'm sceptical. I think it'll go two ways. It's either Hearts are going to be, wow, that was such an obvious transfer window, and everyone's like, why don't we do this all the time? But I think history would tell you that 2 of the 4 aren't going to cut it. That's simple as that. They won't. As we see all the time, some players are good, and then it's just the expectation, the big crowd. If they fuck up a pass, they get like threatened. Like that is it happens at Easter Road. It's the same thing. You just go to a slightly bigger club and the expectation, and there's more wankers in the crowd. There's quite a simple sort of science to it. So I feel like half of them, but I don't think it's that Hearts haven't done anything smart. I think Hearts, I've got a theory that they know that the guaranteed European football is probably coming to an end very, very soon. So that guaranteed money is gonna disappear. So I think Hearts are tooling up a bit to get it again, and they'll leave quite a lot of money. They'll have Shankland money coming in, and they're maybe thinking about 2 or 3 years where they can really still stay ahead.
What you're saying there's a reason why they might keep Shankland if the money doesn't come in, because then you get the output from him. He can maybe fire you to that last
season of getting it.
And if he still wants a big contract, he's going to have to play this season.
Exactly. So, I mean, I just think that maybe their Hearts, there's maybe a bit of longevity in mind about but not, because Hearts have got a decent amount of money. They've got money coming in. They could sell Shankland if they wanted. They'd have loads of money to spend. They've got the Cochrane money. So they could really go for it, which is what I'm going to say, is that fans will say this was the year Rangers look like they're on the ropes a bit. You could have went for it and you chose to sign Spittle, Penrice. That's what's going to be said, right? Okay, that's just a fact. But I see maybe the Hearts are trying to look at the bigger picture, knowing that that's still probably unlikely, even if they do blow their beans and spend £4 million on players, and they're probably thinking, well, this could actually be the way we keep money. We can have spend relatively big, even without the main European money, over the next couple of years, solidifying, keeping third place going, and it'll be the longevity of it rather than try to go for one season and maybe saddling yourself with crap players who are expensive.
We talked about Shankland there. I don't think that was another prediction of mine. I don't think Shankland's going anywhere this year. I think
someone would have to want to sign him.
Aye, which I don't think is going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen to pay what Hearts want to pay, because teams in England have all got these models where it's like it's only going to be a scenario like what I said earlier. If the English season starts as a kind of upper end championship team who think, right, they've got a team that is going to compete for promotion, and then the forward does his ACL, and they're like, right, who the hell do we sign?
And we can get him for cheap,
relatively speaking. Let's go get that guy. But it has to be a team at the top end of the championship. It's not even going to be a team at the bottom end is going to be like, right, let's sign 3 million. Let's spend 3 million on a 29-year-old for Scotland. Nobody's going to do that.
Because for them, it's such low risk for what you could get. You could get 80 million at the end of the season for getting promoted. You know, like, so 3 million, you get rid of them right away. It doesn't make any difference.
And obviously the big chat is the Rangers are after him, but I'm not entirely convinced that's as much the case it's made out to be. It's just the fact, I think it's just, there's a lot of dots getting joined up with Shankland's a big Rangers fan. I think Shankland himself, at the end of last season, when he was like really celebrating scoring against Rangers, was kind of like getting up them for not fancying him, basically.
Find a way to artificially move that story on from day to day.
Yeah,
it's like every day is how can we get Shankland into a headline?
Yes. Who can we talk to?
It was the same.
It was
last
Andy Walker
transfer
yesterday.
window.
Andy Walker talking about we good for Celtic.
It was the same last transfer window. It was just like, how can you get Shankland into your SEO, basically?
And Hearts are not going to sell for any less than 3 million because it's just not worth it with a European bounty. And I would say 3 millions with that at the end of the line, and with keeping most of the team together. If you get the same kind of levels of, unless there's a big injury problem next season, then you're likely that you're sitting in a very good position with Shankland in the team. And I mean, there is a possibility that last year, I think it was like by far the best of Shankland's career, or at least the top, like a high level for kind of outperforming his XG. So
God, here we go.
I know.
We've only done this we've only been on for like 50 minutes. That's all right.
Other than some of the very best players, that kind of comes back to the mean a bit. And so you wouldn't maybe expect Shankland to score some of the goals he scored last season with the frequency that he did. Like
the wee lobs and that.
Hearts have to move away from that anyway.
Think about like when Scotty McClyman for the SPFL like asked us like what were the top 5 Shankland goals. So there was like when the goal he scored against Aberdeen, it was like top corner. It was like left out because he just scored this range of absolute incredible finishes. That might not happen this year. But what I would say is that I think the team might be a bit better built around him to pick up that slack. Mainly, I think Keres Vargas. I'm really looking forward to seeing him this year. I want him to take a leap because he certainly showed flashes and got better as last season went on with a full pre-season to... I know he had a pre-season last year and whatever, but he only just arrived for Costa Rica.
He's got his family over now, is he not?
Now that he's a permanent player...
I know Robert Borthwick, I've got the inside track.
now that he's a permanent player, now that he's got his family over, now that he's had a year to get himself settled, it's clear that he's got great technique. He's fast as lightning. His decision making could be a bit better, but it's not too bad. He
dives. It's good.
He dives a lot. That's good as well. It's not Yutaro Oda levels of decision making being absolutely mental. And then you've also got Mackay being back fully fit again. I like the way he looked at the end. I know he was poor the season before, but I like the way he looked at the end of last season.
When was last time he was good?
Even if, to be
fair, I feel like we've got into myth territory with Mackay.
It's
like kind of like Kyle McGuinness. Oh, when Mackay's back.
The season before, he was often asked to play in a midfield 3 with Robert Snodgrass, and he was not quite. He was just a lot worse than Mackay was the season before. He still provided really like 4 goals and like 4 assists.
Big games for a while.
Aye, but we don't need him to be good in big games. We need him to be good in big games like 3 times out of 11.
He also had a long
8 in the other good games in Hearts.
Long-term injury.
Let's get on to this fucking right back then. I can't use it all fucking cream bops about this guy.
Well, there's 2.
The Costa Rican lad.
There's 2. Gerald Taylor. He is the Costa Rican.
I'm struggling with a guy being called Gerald being good.
Hokey.
I think it's a perfect fullback name. Gerald
Taylor.
Yeah, I'm buying it.
That's not even his full name. He's got another name after that as well.
Oh, that changes everything. Maybe he's a winger.
There's also Daniel Oyegoke.
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 You're definitely already singing that.
Yeah.
They were singing that down in Fleetwood last week, probably.
Were they? Definitely. When you got beat 3-0.
Yeah, exactly.
Of Lee Johnson's former club,
Booing him by half time.
Oh, booey.
He comes in for Brentford, and they're both kind of similar types of fullbacks, although Dan can also play in the back 3, and I think that's maybe where he's expected to play a bit more if Hearts move to a back 3 system.
So you think it'll be switching between the 3 and the 4 most of the season?
To be fair, I think it mainly played a 4 as far as we are.
And he
so
played
far
a 4
this
until half time against Fleetwood, and after going 3-0 down at half time they switched to a back three. So I wonder whether
might have to start a back
that's what
three.
they do against Rangers.
They might have to start a back three this Saturday because Birmingham and Neuenhoff are both out, and there's no real defensive midfield unless Boateng's that fit that he could come right into the starting 11 if he signs in time.
He's been in pre-season, surely.
Aye, but you just never know in terms of how much they're actually... And also he's at Palace, so he's a couple of weeks behind.
Last question, Craig Cairns. Dander Spittle, who's going to cut it? Because one's not, I think, is what I've come to the conclusion.
I think...
I don't feel like both of them can be good. I just don't feel like
I think Spittle is probably the better bet. I think Dander's definitely a bit more mercurial, whereas I think Spittle is... I think even when Spittle... It isn't coming off for him in an attacking sense, he's still going to get dug in, I think. Whereas I don't think you get as much as that from Danda. So I'd probably say there's a better shout that Spittle's a better player, yeah.
I am going to say that of the two of them, I fancy Danda to make himself more of a kind of Hearts hero. I think he's the more... kind of technically, this is harsh on Spittle because Spittle is a good technical player, but you see Danda, like he just looks like... He looks like a really good player. Yeah. And you're right, he is a bit more...
it actually looks better than what he is. Yeah. If you know what I mean.
Probably,
he's one he actually deceives your eyes sometimes.
Because the Hearts crowd can be unforgiving as well, so like if you don't...
But definitely. What I was going to say is that I really liked how he responded to the end of last season. Was his former dipped at County when there's a bit of speculation about him. Then they were really in a relegation battle of all the things with their managers going on. And he really kind of came at the fore the last couple of months of the season. So he was handling pressure. I know it's not the same, but he was handling pressure and he was showing himself to kind of be a good character. So many players in that situation would kind of check out.
Yeah.
He could have, him and Murray could have together put that county team on their back and made sure they stayed in the top flight. So I thought when he was arriving at Hearts, I think he's going to be good now. And Spittle's the one I'm not sure about. What I will say is, I think Spittle and Mackay...
Maybe boo them all, both out of town.
I think Spittle and Mackay can coexist in the same team together. Not sure Mackay and Danda can.
And one thing, though, for Danda as well is that even if he doesn't do great, you still get 3 or 4 set pieces at him in the season coming off the bench, which will create goals. And that is, over a squad game, that's 4 goals, isn't it? That's handy. Like, it's, you think I don't believe that neither will. One will be good, I think, and another one might be handy.
Yeah.
Like,
it's just going to be difficult. A difficult start for these guys, regardless, because Hearts didn't really handle the European fixtures well last time. Their league form suffered. So, for there to be a fair few new players in there as well, making a step up in level as well as European football, it's going to be quite of a baptism of fire for them.
Because I say, like, the Hearts and Killie, it's like the two teams that were 3rd and 4th. It's like it's not much in outgoings, so that's why I'm thinking, would that stick then?
We should move on because Hearts are one of the more boring teams.
Killie are boring as well.
We've spent the most time talking about.
Well, what a shot!
So predictions.
3rd.
Yeah, 3rd as well. I mean, Aberdeen might pip them.
Yeah, like I said earlier, I kind of do. I've got a feeling. I would say more gut feeling that Aberdeen will finish ahead of Hearts this season. But when you're looking at the teams on paper at this moment in time, it's hard not to say Hearts for 3rd. Right, let's move on to the other side of Edinburgh for the Hibs. Another sorry season last time around. Lee Johnson didn't last until the end of August. Nick Montgomery, his replacement.
But you were going to say another sorry season coming up. You wouldn't have been wrong.
We'll get to that. Nick Montgomery's replacement was sacked before the end of the campaign, and David Gray took over on temporary charge before being given the job on a permanent basis. There has been a lot of stuff that has rumbled on behind the scenes, which Tony and Duncan covered on a Patreon earlier this week, which I would recommend listening to.
Yes.
It's on patreon.com/Terrace Podcast if you'd like to hear that. But right now we're going to talk about the team on the park. But part of the dysfunction, Tony, has seemed to be that Hibs are not spending as much as they were in previous campaigns. They're not showing a lot of ambition going into this season in terms of
There's that word again.
Reinvesting in the squad. Does that mean that Hibs are going to dysfunction their way to another bottom 6 finish?
Because the key is, like, I think this is what happens when there's a bit of lack of communication for the top. They kind of let Foley run his mouth, really, when he came in. And Foley was, well, right, so he talked about the investment, a couple of million that's set aside for the squad. That's clearly not what they were thinking. And I'm happy. As I said, I've never been one to say that I think they've got nefarious. Putting the money in has never been the issue with the Gordon family. No. It's been the incompetence. It's very much
It's been the amount of money you've given to Noah Kenna and Josh Tavares.
It's about who the money goes
Jake
to.
Doyle Hayes.
So I understand if they're probably I'm not going to defend them too much. I understand they're probably thinking, next year, I think Hibs shave off 12 earners.
So this is what I was going to ask you then. Are the fans, because it sounds like what's been set up, what Malky Mackay said to the Hibs Observer a couple of months ago, is that there is going to be a season of pretty much just getting, he didn't say it in these words, but get through the season. Next season, we can have a proper clear out and get in the players that we really want to have. I think are Hibs fans going to stomach that?
This is what I said is the biggest issue for them, because I think the season ticket sales are already down. Obviously, if you have 3 to 4 bad seasons, when one of them that was good was when we finished 5th, but that still had like back-to-back 3-0 defeats to Hearts, and I think we still lost like 11 games out of 13 at one point. You know what I mean? It was because this league's weird and bad. that the fact that you can do that and still finish 5th. Do you understand what I mean? So that it's not like that was like you're still sitting there going like, oh, the memories of that season. You just on paper you go, we made Europe. So that's a difficult thing and this is the problem when you've got voices coming from different places like Foley, and that people's expectations get moved away. You think something different is going to happen. Whereas I'm not against what they've done. They've put a lot of money in. They probably do want to recoup some of their losses. Yeah. And they still have a lot of them. It's like they want to take the money back for their incompetence. And whether it's not cool, it's not a good thing, it's obviously their prerogative and what people do. That's how they behave.
I think now the problem for this season and for David Gray, and you kind of feel a little bit sorry for David Gray coming into this job with that all kind of going on above him.
That's why he's got the job though. So
yeah, this
is normally how you get your opportunity.
But what I was going to say,
without having to manage like Hearts B or something like that. Do you know what I mean?
I was going to say, you look on paper, and if things break right for Hibs this season, and Gray does prove himself to be a good manager in the kind of similar vein that Stephen Naismith at Hearts last year, then you can seriously talk about Hibs as contenders for third, because there's a lot of talent within that squad. There's just an expectation, especially with things going on behind the scenes that Hibs are just going to fuck it.
Are there a lot? I mean, I know they scored a lot of goals there, but are there a lot of goals in the team?
This is where we move into. I think Hibs were one of the top scorers outside the Old Firm last season. That's with the Nick Montgomery filling their head with fucking jubes over the course of a long period of time. And obviously it was lack of being able to play past the 85th minute was a huge issue for Hibs. Maybe over maybe 12 games, which is a huge chunk of it. And it does look like they were like instantly like the one position that they haven't fucked around with was goalkeeper in 2.5. They went out and it looks like the goalkeeper's on loan. I don't know about him, but he's got a slight bit of pedigree. Okay,
he looks like a good signing.
Played a lot of games in the English Championship. He was under 21 goalkeeper. I don't think he's perfect, but obviously there's a pedigree there. And then the 2 centre halves, which is the main bit, O'Hara and Ekpetea.
You just want them to be boring. You just want to be as boring as possible.
Well, the thing that's good. It's League One centre half, but they both played tons of games. Yeah. And they were both captains. So it's like these were like main guys. They brought leaders. Hibs obviously lacked leaders like fuck last season. Hence why you're losing goals late on in every single game. So and it looks like they've been brought in to they complement Ekpetea as maybe it looks really no nonsense. He's big. He's strong. It's all the things that you like. And he's quick, relatively speaking, for a defender. So that looks like all the things that you would expect to do well in Scottish Premiership. And O'Hara has a bit of football in him, and he's a leader. And it was really nice. His interview I loved because he's moved to Irish football. He's went to English football. He's done quite well there, and he seemed delighted to move to a club. I think you're just talking about. I know the training ground trope comes up, but it was like a guy thinking like I've made it into like near enough of the big time now. I'm going to be playing in big stadiums. You could tell he was buzzing a bit about it.
Better knock that Irish heritage shit on the head though.
I know, for some fans, so like I think that these look like, which is unusual, they look like sensible signings that I think will work. And the beauty of Gray, and I think the main reason what Hibs have maybe ignored what the Black Knights were advising is they've really just, cause you're not going to overly invest, because you've had a manager filling their head with jubes, you move that they went for Gray.
What are jubes?
Sweets, maybe, I don't know.
I don't know, you're saying it.
Is that an Aussie reference?
Just a throwaway phrase, okay? Not kind of made up, but just there you go. Let's move on. Anyway, but like it's going to be a simplified message, and in the League Cup campaign, you could see straight away, similar to what I was saying about Thielen, you can see the difference right away that it's just going to suit playing here so much better. They're getting the ball to Boyle really quickly, who looks like the fittest he's been for years. And there's like all hunting in packs. It's tenacious. It's hard working. They get the ball. It's not that they're rushing into it, but the balls are being played forward. It's getting into wide positions quickly. There's crosses coming into the box. It's very, very fast paced, hard working, and looks like it'll suit a lot more of the players a lot better, including especially Josh Campbell. Looks like he's going to have a really good season off the back of David Gray. David Gray really likes him and he understands him. Campbell, as we all know, is a player that needs to be understood. You have to use him in a very specific way, and then you get output from him, which is not the same as every player. He'll actually score you goals. He can maybe win you games, even though he's not brilliant. It's just that you have to use him. And the way Newell moving back into playing this quarterback role, and it's like the midfielders are playing much closer together, and it looks like he's going to go with Campbell and Mariah Welsh. And it's like high octane, but they are very fit. They're very aggressive. Suits this league. And then the idea that you've got Yuan and then everyone's favourite from the League Cup campaign. And hopefully I think the fans are desperate for it to work with Rudy Molotnikov because he had a brilliant campaign. And a big part of it is he's looks really big and strong as well. Looks like he can cope with that side of it, which is really, really important in this country. We pretend it's not sometimes because sometimes we don't like it. We're almost ashamed of it. But I think he was. He's got a bit of quality about him. And then the idea is who's going to come in to play up front? That has to happen. It's negligent that we're going this season with Venti as really the only striker.
Yeah, you would think you would, even with little money, you will sign at least somebody else, but you would presume that Venti is going to be number 9. I'm surprised you don't think that Venti's maybe going to have a good season because Venti's talked about himself, that he's really enjoying the fact that he's now just playing on the shoulder of the last defender rather than running about and dropping deep so much.
Tons of sitters in the League Cup. I mean, in the Queen's Park game when we scored 5 goals, he missed 2 absolute stinkers. And he didn't score. He scored that hat-trick. You're like, here we go. Then he doesn't score again. He needs to be pushed. And we need... But it will suit him better. He's on the shoulder. He's not playing fucking a defensive forward role, which was the main role that he got, which was always bonkers because he's wanting to put a bit of running in. But the problem with someone like Venti, man, is he's a striker. He's not particularly quick. He's not particularly strong.
No.
He's not a particular handful. So we need to be creating chances.
He doesn't get involved in the build-up play quite as often as others.
So that's a problem if you're a lone striker ultimately. But again, that's up to Hibs if that's the style you've got. You've got Boyle, and if Yuan stays or goes, Yuan, I think they want to get rid of him, but they're maybe just going to run out of time because he's injured. They might not be able to do it.
Oh, no.
So they might not. I hope so because I'd like to see Yuan play with a manager like Gray, where it is quite simple, direct, and I think that'll bring out the best in them.
What happens when Gray leaves? Who the fuck comes in as caretaker?
Well, Malcolm Mackay, obviously. That's the whole point.
Malcolm Mackay will give himself the job.
But they're getting rid of their trusty caretaker, the guy who's coming and being caretaker 3 or 4 times.
Malcolm Mackay knows.
Push him back in a first team coach.
But yeah, I think it's very possible Hibs could do okay. I think Hibs, because everything's simplified, the manager will get the back in, and even if he does badly, they won't turn on him, they'll turn on the board, is what will happen in the stadium. So I think there's a chance, and if they can sign a couple of forwards, if one of them's Bowie, for example, who looks like he's a workhorse for everyone I know, he's quick, he's direct, everything that Venti isn't. So again, you start looking about the balance of the team starts to make some sort of sense, which is always an issue with Hibs, where you're just like, I don't understand what the makeup of this team's going to do.
Predictions?
6th.
Right now, I'm going for 8th right now, unless they add some more goals.
7th for me.
I'm very much on the assumption that one of these strikers is surely signing now. Surely to God.
They have to bring
even Gray's, he's very much not a politician manager, I don't think, is even like using the media to go, I need fucking... We can't just go to the season with Venti. Venti gets injured, there's no one. It's McCurdy. He can't play 90 minutes. He can barely play 10.
Right, let's move on to Kilmarnock. It only took 2 and a bit seasons, but Derek McInnes managed to take Killie from the 2nd tier back to his usual spot in the top 4 of Scottish football. For both themselves and St Mirren, this podcast has been recorded and will indeed be released before their European match. But I think we could all say we wouldn't be too surprised if they managed to do what McInnes did with Aberdeen when he went away to Groningen, and after a first leg draw, I believe, and eke out a result as they competed particularly well, especially the last 30 minutes with that first leg game against Bruges.
Cercle
Bruges. And talking about this campaign as a whole from a league point of view, pleasantly for McInnes and the Killie fans, the core of the team hasn't been decimated, which you often see with one of the... I mean, Killie are... The top flight starts aren't necessarily one of the quote-unquote smaller teams, they're kind of mid-tier team, but usually anybody below the top 5, you have a good season, you say goodbye to many of your good players. That's not happened with Killie at all so far. There is interest in Danny Armstrong, but I think Killie are holding out for a decent bit of cash to part with one of their better players. The only big change in the summer is that Will Dennis, who was on loan last season, is away back to his parent club, and Robbie McCrory is in instead. Can Robbie... is Robbie McCrory just kind of the big X factor of Robbie McCrory is just fine? He doesn't even have to be as good as Dennis, he just has to be fine. Are Killie just about guaranteed in our top 6 spot unless Armstrong goes?
I'd say so. I think it's they're one of the least interesting teams to talk about at the moment, but that's just because they're pretty much the same team as last season.
It's a credit to their competency.
Yeah, exactly.
And competency.
And the continuity that they've managed to get going into the season. I think they've improved in their forward options with Anderson. But yeah, the big question mark I think is going to be McCrory, because he's just so untested week in, week out. And you see with Dubrovsky when he left Hibs after not playing too many games and went to Wraith Rovers, it's taken him a while to improve his kicking and to command his area.
It should be said, between the two of them, McCrory does have a bit more top flight experience. Although I wouldn't say, that was particularly good, because I think he had 2 spells at Living. It was maybe his second one. He was not good.
Yeah, but not good.
He's not. he has had a wee bit more than Dubrovsky had at this stage. He's a wee bit older as well, I think, isn't he? But
he's quite old now.
He's still not. Even in recent seasons,
young for a goalie, I would say.
He's not been. He's not played week in, week out for a while now. What was it? Livingston, his last loan spell where he played regularly, or was it because there was 2 in Scotland? I'm trying to remember who the other one was.
One was Queen of the South, I believe.
Which side of? Oh, so that was after Livy, I think.
No, it was before. No, it was Morton. Morton, Queen of the South, then Livy twice.
Okay.
And the first time he was good. Second spell he was poor.
So he hasn't been out on loan since Livy?
No, and he's played since
then. I thought there was another one since then.
He played 5 times for Rangers.
That was a while ago as well.
Talking about loans, Finlay's back for his fourth loan.
Trying to set some sort of record.
Yeah, and he also was playing for 18 months as well. So he's going to be he's going to have so many years under his belt, but only ever for 18 months as a permanent player.
So, is there any other issues that might pop up for Killie? It's going to seem Killie fans listening to this might be a bit, well, why are you focusing on negatives? Because the positives are basically you've got a good team. And your team proved it last year, and if you keep that team together and everybody maintains a kind of level of form, you will finish in the top 5 this campaign.
And Bruce Anderson is going to be a better backup striker than Van Veen turned out.
There's even a bit of depth, because you've got Robbie Dees at centre half, you've got Mbada, who will play a lot of left wing back, and they'll probably play Armstrong on the other side, and then maybe play Kennedy. And
got a solid defence,
so they can play Kennedy and Armstrong on the wings as well. They can move between 4 at the back and 3 at the back. They've got Polworth, they've got these troop of midfielders who, with the exception of David Watson, who's obviously a younger player.
It looks like he's staying as well, which is an important factor.
They've got this group of midfielders who, at other clubs, didn't really do that much, but at Killie they've been great. Brad Lyons, Liam Donnelly, Polworth himself.
Here's the question.
Kyle McGuinness' legs will fall off again in September, but...
There's the interest, because he's maybe fit, ready for the season, eh? I've heard that one before.
Yeah, I was going to say.
But I suppose the interesting one is Fraser Murray. Is he the next to be given the McInnes what he'd done with Lyons and Armstrong? Because he played a pretty prominent role in the promotion season, and then last season he was sort of towards the end. He came in, and in the game in Europe he came on and had a massive impact.
Really scored at the end.
So is that the next player that can do it? But I think in terms of I think they'd finish 4th. But a big part of it is if they do sell Armstrong, they need to sign 2 players to match his output, because his output's mental for a player that plays. No disrespect, for a player that plays for Killie, that is wild.
I think you're right. They're not going to get a direct replacement. But I mean, Bruce Anderson, I think he could be one of the better signings of the window as well. I think he scores.
I'm a big guy, big fan.
He scores goals in the Premiership, and he has done for worse teams than Kilmarnock.
Did you start off by saying that I'm a big guy? And then you said you're a big fan.
I'm a big guy and a fan of it. No, it was me. And a fan
even
of
notice.
And also,
I'm a big guy.
The pest factor as well, because Marley Watkins is quite a pesty player. Well, so I mean, you would be a bit of like for like. I think Watkins will still stay ahead of him because Mark was so good, but it's so like for like.
There's a potential problem, is that, speaking of the front players, Watkins turns 34 in October, and Vassell turned 32 before the end of the season. Now, Watkins, a lot of his game is, well, they're both kind of powerful players, but Watkins obviously got a bit of pace as well. Vassell, all about kind of his strength and how he kind of bullies defenders. As they get older, could one of them, or potentially both of them, have the career start to slide and start to lose those talents?
Is that maybe the beauty of the Anderson signing? Is that he's so ready to step in if that is the case?
I'm just playing devil's advocate here, so trying to say something interesting about Kelly. If Anderson,
changed the pitch.
But he was under McInnes before and never got a sniff. So
yeah.
McInnes loves signing players that every time they play for him.
But Watkins was like that. Was Watkins not like that as well? Played under McInnes, didn't get a sniff, and then he came to Kilmarnock.
Maybe that was like more Greg Stewart. Stewart, Bruce Anderson, potentially.
Okay. But
so that's the worst case scenario, I think, for Kelly that we've laid out. But even that is like well clear of relegation.
I think that because he's done it so many times and he got the right team together, and even if they keep Armstrong as well, I think they will finish.
He's shown he can build something sustainable as well, McInnes. So I wouldn't be surprised.
Prediction?
Fourth,
fifth
for me as well. Right, let's move on to Motherwell. Last season, Motherwell suffered through a horrendous run, but in the end, we're in no real danger of dropping out of division, as thanks to Theo Bear's...
Because it's Scottish football, the top flight, you just get away with it.
And Theo Bear's goals, which were a huge surprise and a delight to just basically be alive at the same time as this happening, where this man who looked like he wasn't a footballer at all just suddenly became a £1.5 million player with 1 year left on his deal.
Off to France as well, it's cool.
But he is away, and Stuart Kettlewell has been very busy in the transfer market this summer, and I have to say, between them and Rangers, who are very much a team in flux right now, so it's hard to know what the hell's happening at Ibrox, this is the two teams where I'm like, I don't know what to make of them, because they've signed so many players, and I'm not really familiar with, none of us are familiar with the majority of them. The only guys they've signed that we've heard of, none of them I think we're particularly massive fans of, certainly at this point in their career. Ross Callaghan had his moment with Hamilton, didn't really do much at County.
Did he not have a wee run at County?
I don't think County fans were particularly...
Was it Aki's where he...
It was Aki's where he was good.
Done that, when he got like a 12-goal season or something.
Yes, so it might have just been that one campaign Aki, that was him. Zach Robinson has been signed for Dundee, given the number 9. Good in the Championship for Dundee, not good last season. Weird that he's got the number 9 shirt and a bit worrying. Liam Gordon, might be that he just needed a change of scenery, but he was poor for St Johnstone over the last couple of seasons. Has been good so far. Again. League Cup. And Andy Halliday's back on a permanent deal, and I think Motherwell fans were very much kind of like, about him in the second half of last season. Not to denigrate a fellow podcaster.
So Katrumbis and Sparrow,
so now let's get to the guys that none of us have heard of.
But they've been injured as well, so we've not got to see them. And was it Seddon? We've only got to see little bits of him because he's been coming back. But Ewan Wilson, Abizat.
Let's start off with a big headline for their summer signings. Well, actually,
Kofi Balmer. No, I'm only joking.
No, well, I'll get to him in a second. But
I'm just never going to be arsed seeing this guy's name.
Apostolos.
I've got Stamatopoulos. Yeah, you were almost there.
The Aussie Greek guy.
The Aussie Greek guy who costs £250,000 and doesn't have as good a goal scoring record in the A-League as Jimmy McClaren. So that's surely alarm bells ringing, right?
Yeah, but the one thing I will say from Motherwell, even if they've got it wrong, is at least
Dutch goals are dog years. What are Australian goals?
Gerbil years.
Is that like an Interstellar when they're too close to the black hole?
Don't sign him! But I think the most interesting part is that he's going to go up front, and his idea is, are they going to go, again, another team going to play fucking 3 at the back? I used to be the biggest advocate of 3 at the back. I used to love it when I was younger, and when I first came on the pod, I used to talk about it a lot. Now every cunt's doing it, and it's annoying, and it makes it shitter. It simply makes it shitter. If everyone's doing it, it's clogged. Especially in our league, where there's not enough good forward players to offset it. Yeah. I think it's a good formation and it can be used.
Well, not enough good wing backs, and that's the thing. They're basically going with 2 new guys at wing back this year. Similar with Dundee, to be fair, but you just have a bit more faith that Dundee have done a bit better. Because I like Kettlewell as a coach. The way he coaches the team and seems to look what he did with Theo Bear.
And he always arrests poor runs as well.
Which is a really big thing to be able to do.
I think so.
I'm really coming to the conclusion that he's awful at the transfer market.
But he's got
Theo Bear, man. Theo Bear.
But again, the Stamatopoulos, we've got the other thing about him is that he made Ross Stewart's career, Kettlewell, when he was down there. He done the magic dust with Van Veen, and that looks very much like a one-season thing. And then he's done the same with Theo Bair. I'm starting to think he could sign you, Fowler, up front. and
would score once.
And there would be like 15 goals. And so, like, it's hard. Kettlewell seems to have an eye for at least coaching a striker, and he's bringing a guy in who's at least confident.
Well, if he's getting me to score 15 goals and Stuart Kettlewell has the ability to coach the opposition to allow a forward to shoot from the goal line.
So I think the exciting bit for them is that it's obviously going to, I say it's going to be 3-4-3. They've got the big question here is, do they want to go with the dual attacking midfielders, which right now you think would be Callaghan and Nicholson, who it's like one would like to pick the lock and the other one would like to smash the lock with the hammer, being Callaghan, you know. So maybe there's aggressive running and a bit more technique. Maybe there's a blend in there that possibly. And did they not use Miller further forward? Sometimes in the League Cup campaign, and I think they've done it at some friendlies, which might be cool because they've got a lot more players that can play in that sort of midfield role, that maybe allowing Miller to just go forward, use his quality, and even in the most like sort of like maybe uncool, I'm forgetting the word that I would want to use, cynical way of thinking about it, put Miller in there and he scores 8 to 10 goals, he's going to cost a lot of money.
You've also got, you've got Miller, you've got Drakowski, and you've got a decent enough kind of starting back three with O'Donnell now becoming like a right-sided centre-back. I think McGinn's still there as well.
Yeah.
McGinn's still there. Gordon, Casey. I think that's fine. The problem is going to be going forward. Sam Nicholson did show flashes last year, but for a lot
of injuries at the moment. Though. Nicholson and Callaghan are two of them. Katrumbis is another. Sparrows is another.
They've had to change up their team quite a lot in the Premier Sports Cup as well. I think Kettlewell's just seen throwing stuff at the wall and see what sticks. And also due to the injuries as well. But one aspect...
Slattery's still out as well. Is he not? Payton's out for months, is he not?
Payton, 3 months for Payton. That's the other one I couldn't remember, yeah.
Another concern for them, and I think it's similar to Dundee, but Dundee I think I've got two better... Well, it's hard to say because I don't know what these guys are like, but you would assume we've seen the Dundee keepers before, and we know that they're of a decent standard, whereas we don't really know much about Christian Higgy and the young keeper whose name I had...
He sounds like a car, honestly.
Ashton Oxborough.
Yeah.
Oh, no, thank you.
So they both shared 2 games.
Or a destination.
In the League Cup in Oxborough.
The next stop is Ashton Oxborough.
Yeah. The end of the line on the London tram.
So Heggie came in for West Ham on loan and does have experience of playing in was it Den Bosch? I believe. So you would think, well, he's going to start and West Ham are going to let him go out on loan if he's not going to play. However, it was Oxborough that played in that game against Partick Thistle where Motherwell needed a result to top that group. And, it might get replayed. But they turned to him to see them through to the next round. And he was arguably their best player on the day. So is it going to be Oxborough, who doesn't even have a Wikipedia page, coming in to start for this team? And that would worry me a little bit because we all know what a bad goalkeeper could do to teams. Relegate them.
Yeah. They've got, going back to the options that they have in the wing-back roles, you've got the young lad, is it Ewan Wilson?
Ewan Wilson, who was pretty good in the League Cup. Yeah,
so he's, and like, asked Graham about him, and he was saying, like, a left-sided Chris Cadden, which I just get the idea. I mean, like up and down non-stop, can tackle a bit, can dribble a bit, but will shove the ball off the bar. And this is again when I'm coming, like, they've got the choice because they're bringing in Zach Robinson as well, and then the big boy, the Aussie Greek boy is going to play. They don't spend that money on him. Yeah. Fair play to them that it was a quick turnaround. They sold Bair and they knew exactly what they were going for. It might not work, but I'm always like, I prefer it if my club has the sort of the idea of what they're going to do when something happens.
They've got Stuparevich as well. He seems to be playing off the right from what I've seen. Okay. I think, but I thought he was more central than that. But
so at least they've got the option that they can go 2 up front. And the one thing about Robinson is he is a handful. Like, he's not annoying to play against. Yeah. Again, lacks quality. So they do have, again, if they can use Miller or Nicholson or Callaghan or Robinson, there's sort of different attributes in that over a season they can change it up a bit. That could be annoying for a team to other teams to play against. So that maybe gets them somewhere and maybe get a young player coming through. But yeah, it's hard to see them being brilliant, isn't it?
Where do we think they will finish?
I think they will start poorly and then finish 10th. But I think they may have a really poor start to the season.
Have I got anyone in 9th yet?
I've not been writing yours down.
No, I should have been writing my own
down. I've got them in 10th.
I'm going to go for who we got.
You've not said anyone in the bottom 3 at all. Have you said 9th? Where did you put United?
I put
Could end up with
99th.
Hibs second or something.
So I'll put Motherwell 10th as well.
Right, so we're all thinking Motherwell.
We've already said Hibs. End up with St Johnstone second.
Right, Rangers. Okay, last season, Rangers did get their hands on a trophy by winning the League Cup, defeating Aberdeen in
We
the
don't
final.
give a fuck.
But in another season, they should have won the treble. They had the league. They came from nowhere earlier in the campaign to lead Celtic as we were heading into the business end of the season. But then Philippe Clement got too rattled by the Dens Park pitch, and Rangers title
So rattled
challenge.
that they had to close Ibrox.
That Rangers title challenge felt a bits with Dujon Sterling saying that he felt like the atmosphere in the shade room was not that of one for a team going for a championship, and then they were the better team. I think quite easily the better team in the Scottish Cup final, especially at the point where Celtic scored the winning goal. But they lost that as well, so it was kind of a familiar story for Rangers last year. What's going to happen this year? Do you know what? I mean, I think they're going to finish second because they're a shambles off the park and they're playing at Hampden and they're still to sign loads of players and they're trying to push players out the door. But at the same time, fuck knows, because there are still so many moving plates spinning plates at this point in time that it's really hard. They're the hardest team to analyse, and we've just done Motherwell, who we don't even know what any of their signings are.
Yeah, because like Diamonde was pretty good last season. So if they bring in more players of that quality, then yes, that's what you have to do to get closer to Celtic. But there's a lot. Not only is there a lot of question marks about the players that they're bringing in, those are stalwarts you're taking out of the team. Now I know that they still fell short in a number of competitions.
Goldson was starting to fall off.
Yeah, but still, you're taking if Tavernier leaves, if that's to be believed, and he leaves, you're taking out Goldson, Barisic again, a guy that was on
It's
the
like
way.
losing guys who know the course, all at the same time.
I wouldn't include Barisic in that.
John-
He said he
no,
looked
but he-
like he couldn't get a fuck.
He was on the way in a bit, but even like John Lundstrom, he was the best on earth for a wee while. But he waned a wee bit as well towards the end. But he's another just like a leader among that group, and I think they're losing a lot of talent and a lot of experience and characters.
So there might be,
and who knows if everybody comes in and hits the ground running. Now Hearts did it in 2005, 2006, where nobody knew who our signings were.
Yeah,
and we also
they clicked in
absolutely
immediately.
threw a lot of money at it, more than blew all the other teams out the water with it. But I think part of it was a surprise element. Like nobody knew who the fuck Rudy Scatchell and Roman Bednar were at that point.
Yes.
So you could have that scenario, or you could have a
black Audi in the car park.
or it could be or it could be Phil Le Guin.
But what you're also seeing, possibly saying as well, is when you're talking about these players coming out. Now you would think that proper coming in for Goldson is with Goldson starting to get a bit older and to get a bit worse. That is maybe an upgrade. You're looking at the rest of the kind of best team so far, and you're like, right, okay, so Lundstrom's left, good. Conor Barron coming in. Is Conor Barron an upgrade on John Lundstrom?
Not right now, maybe.
Not yet.
But he's good. The potential's there, definitely.
Dujon Sterling's right now slated to start a right back. He's not as good a right back as James Tavernier.
He's not as good at right back as he is anywhere else on the pitch, even though that's when he plays.
And at this point in time, probably Tom Lawrence is still in the best Rangers team as well. And that's an issue if they're going to want to win the league, because Tom Lawrence is not as good as...
So Czerny looks
similar
like...
players
That's what I was about to say. Czerny, and who's the other guy that they were...
He'll probably start
Jefty?
He'll probably start the front three. Jefty is the left back. The problem is Cortez
Have they kept the Turkish boy...
Yilmaz.
He's still there.
He'll probably start.
And he was pretty good last season.
Jefty and Yilmaz going for the same position. Jefty is very much an attacking fullback, and Cortez ahead of him he showed in his brief spell last season before he got injured that he looked a good player. Problem is, so far this pre-season, both of them have looked like would have been partnered together, that there's just no defence down that side of the Rangers pitch. And also, again, we don't want to put too much stock in the pre-season, but we spoke about earlier, Celtic playing very well in pre-season. Rangers have been stinking.
Aye, stunk honking.
But the fact that we get booed.
Man United
Hearts
had
would get
Will
booed
Fish
as
in
well,
the
to be
team.
fair, but yeah, Man United had Will Fish in the team. So, yeah. And also, you kind of have to talk about the Hampden aspect of it as well. Playing away from Ibrox, it's just...
months after they were having a go at Dundee.
That's
and I know you're not
brilliant.
comparing like with like there, but it's just so fucking funny that they went so hell for leather on Dundee, took them and sued them and got money out of them and all that kind of stuff, and then a few months later they kind of keep their own house in order.
And then it's even you're taking guy like Sima not playing. Obviously, he was good when he was fit.
Oh yeah,
one of their best players. And even he's always injured, but Kamar Roof's good for 6-7 goals. You know, like he is over the season. He's never going to be fit, but he's good for them at different points of the season, mainly when they're in Europe. And like, looks like they're going to play Dynamo Kiev, who shoved fucking 6 goals past, who was it they were playing? Belgrade. So 6-2, and you start to get, well, that means it makes me think that Kiev are all guns blazing, ready for the season. Do you understand what I mean? Like, they're ready to go. And that looks like you didn't want to be getting the season off to...
They play in the same calendar as us? I can't even remember. But Ukraine, they're not like mid-season or anything. I don't think they're one of those leagues, are they?
I have no idea.
No idea. Can't say I know much about the Ukrainian. They play in Poland.
Poland at the moment. Good trip.
Well, at least Shakhtar were.
And then, so it's just like, there's so much goal, but they must be able to invest a little bit more. Another thing that would worry me if I'm a Rangers fan, and that would always worry me, is
Ukraine play the normal, like the rest of us.
So they're all. No, sorry, it'll be a nightmare for them if they get absolutely thumped in the Champions League right away, like what happened with the PSV game last season. That set them on a pretty bad start. They were wonky, then Beale goes away. Do you know what I mean? That set them off a bad start, and it's like, the big worry, here we go. The big worry is that Clement's already getting his excuses in. And I don't blame him. I'm not saying he's wrong, but if I'm a fan, I'm always panicking when I see my manager's thinking steps ahead here about
you mentioned them being rattled. He's been rattled since, it seems like.
So like when he's thinking about self-preservation. When you talk like that and you're saying, oh, I didn't realise what the budget would be. I've been brought in with this budget and now it's changed and we've moved stadium. He's not fucking wrong. He's not wrong. I believe everything he's saying. But if your fans are thinking, if he feels the need to have to get all this in, that means he thinks it's going to be shit. That's the whole reason he's doing it.
Right, let's move on. We've got 3 teams left to do. It's just, we didn't really talk about Rangers too much there, but it's just hard to analyse them too much. We don't know what their team's going to look like. And,
surely they'll buy more players, surely.
They'll probably win because, well, they always win against most teams.
Robin
Celtic,
Proper.
But I am looking forward to...
Proper's coming in.
He will
Proper
be signed by the time this comes out, I think.
Probably, and that's that. He's surely an upgrade on Conor Barron, let's be honest.
No, there you go.
And maybe an upgrade on John Lundstrom. Last season, certainly John Lundstrom of like the last third of the season.
Certainly John Lundstrom at Celtic Park.
Oh wow! Like let's get you up the road, John. John, your taxi's outside, please.
Right, let's discuss Ross County. So for the second season in succession last term, County competed in the Scottish Premiership playoff final after finishing 11th. On this occasion, though, it wasn't quite as nail-biting as they comfortably defeated Wraith Rovers over 2 legs. Now, Don Cowie is in charge for his first season on a permanent basis, but he's been a bit hamstrung by what's happened in the transfer market with Jan Danda leaving on a free and Simon Murray signing for Dundee for roughly around about £100,000.
So what do, Craig? You go and get your big brother and get him in as first team coach. Paul Cowie.
Yes, that's what he's got. I didn't realise.
That's it. He's got his big brother to come in as
the Dundee United Academy manager
to be the first team coach.
So, I don't think we've been particularly impressed by County's business overall in the transfer market. Are they heading for a third consecutive 11th place finish?
Yeah, because we know who's going to finish bottom. Well, we'll say who's going to finish bottom, and I like every other season, they won't.
Oh yeah, didn't they say predictions for Rangers? I'm pretty sure we're all second.
Second, at the moment, aye. Because the Connor Randall's been named captain.
Yes.
As well. It's a bit, you sure? And then, I mean, what we've got, Akil Wright.
So he looks alright.
3-year deal. So they've obviously banking on him, you know what I mean? He's straight in.
He's got a lot of experience in the English lower leagues, coming from Stockport, and he was impressing County fans in the League Cup by his poise on the ball and his willingness to step out. And if you're playing with a back three, as County did a lot of last year, you want somebody in your team that can do that. And I think they were kind of missing that at quite a few points last term. Somebody that was a bit more confident about. Nightingale done it to extent. He is back as well. Will Nightingale back on loan, is injured at the moment, however. So yeah, Akil Wright looks decent. I think when I'm looking at this County team and the problem I have with it and why I worry about them a lot next season, first of all, they've replaced Simon Murray with Ronan Hale. Now, Hale scored a very good goal against Accies and
scored a couple of good goals against Stirling Albion, was it?
Yes, and so, but...
And he scored some rakers for his old team.
He did. He was a very good player in
Cliftonville, was it?
Yes, in the Northern Irish top flight. But you always worry about players coming from Northern Irish football into the Scottish top flight and whether they're going to be good.
Liam Boyce made the same transfer.
He did. Boy scored over 20 goals in his prior 2 seasons going to County, and Hale has never scored 20 league
on the
goals in a
books of
season.
Werder Bremen as well.
So there is he's not quite at the boy standard in the Irish league before
But he
coming
looks
here.
like he's got a bit about him. Yeah, and he looks confident. It looks like he might score like a variety of goals.
Yeah.
And that might help them in terms of he might be able to give them something out of nothing. He might not get the 15 goals, but you might get something out of nothing, which that could win you 9 points.
That'll be good for them. Especially because my main issue with this team, I don't know how much creativity there is in this. Without Danda, it seems like so far, and I mean, there's still time in the transfer market, so they're probably still in the hunt for another number 10. But it seems so far they're trying to replace Danda with Jack Greaves, who
from
is
Watford.
a youngster from
Charlie
Watford.
Telfer.
And Charlie Telfer, who
Look, maybe I think they played them in the first League Cup game.
Yeah,
Not really seen them since.
No.
And they went, that was we thought we could do something. We can't.
and I'm not sure Charlie Telfer is kind of like a creative kind of attacker.
Yeah.
At this level, he's more of a kind of sideways passer, is he not?
Yeah,
really?
I suppose. Yeah, he did play further forward for Airdrie at times, but yeah, you're right. He is more like a neat and tidy footballer.
But Greaves is a young player who's he's played in the Championship for Watford and he's still quite young, so that's fairly impressive. I think he's still maybe a teenager.
He's 99.
But he's only played 4 times and he's probably seen as a striker and they've been using him in midfield.
Yeah, because that's what I got confused. I was trying to do my research and I saw forward, and then I was going on the forums for Ross County to get an idea, and I was looking, I was like, well, surely him would have played up front. They can't have played with 3 centre forwards. And then I was reading that he was playing.
Well, they were doing that last season, to be fair.
Yeah, they did it.
Murray, Brophy and White.
Yeah, something at work. But it looks like they were pairing him, like in the last game, they paired him with Andrew McLeod, who might be on for a bit. Like I think they had him on loan they had him on loan at Nairn County.
Right,
but he's come in and he's a young player, and he's come in. I think he's appeared in all 4 games and started a couple. But that was like 2 teenagers almost, or a 19 or 20-year-old playing in those like Juliets or whatever you want to call them. And I've got a theory, and the Ross County fans were talking about it themselves. Laturi, right? So they had him.
Your boy.
Well, they had them in defensive midfield. That's what they said in this game, defensive midfield, and a lot of them didn't like it because, and it's true, Laturi sort of like he's young. He's come from like a poor league. He comes in and sometimes he sort of moves for the sublime to ridiculous. Sometimes he's quite ponderous on the ball, and he
Seems
gets
quite slight as well for a defensive midfielder.
And then, but other times you see him and he's like nutmegging people and he's dribbling past people and he's bursting through. Do you know what I mean? So you can see, I think they worry about him being in there because he's in that role and he's ponderous and he gets caught out. They're in real trouble. But Laturi, maybe there's an idea of getting, like when they used him a bit further forward last season, he had some of his better games, like against Rangers, for example. And he's quite good in tight areas. Like I said, he can make a nutmeg and he's quite quick and stuff. And maybe that could be a way of again, we're trying to figure out a balance, but they don't have it. So I'm going to get outside the box.
I should probably add as well, to be fair, they're not going to replace Danda's creativity, but it's going to be very hard to do that. And maybe they don't need to, because maybe what they can just do, because he's still there, it feels like he's going to be there forever, for the rest of my life. Ross County are going to be jobbing around the bottom of the Scottish Premiership, and Jordan White's just going to be winning headers and doing little else. But I think that's going to be maybe their tactic. Knock it long to White. He'll win a flick down, and Hale, or if Laturi's now going to be a number 10.
No, I think that's what they need. They've maybe done that.
Or even like Aidan Denham, who again, not like, I kind of liked Denham at Hearts last year, but I wouldn't really be surprised if he's the type of player that looks better in a better team, because his running is bringing that energy. Kind of helps the kind of more talented
There'll be more expectation on him to do stuff.
Yes, which I'm not sure is going to happen. But he could be that player that just kind of runs onto White flick-ons and gets forward and gets in the box and
gets 5 or 6 goals or something.
Yeah, fuck shit up.
And then you've got and if all else fails, Brophy will shoot.
Yeah,
well, he will. No, you can't stop him. Doesn't matter what you sell him. But like maybe if White's maybe with Hale again, like maybe even if he's not coping with the all round sort of game, with someone like White being there he's a handful, who is like as much of a facilitator as you can possibly be, and he'll score for set pieces and he'll score some header. He'll take the brunt of that, and maybe that allows Hale to score 8 or 9 goals, because really all that the WB asked for is his range of finishing. This is desperate stuff. Please, I am well aware.
Well, they're not going to be bringing him in and saying, oh, you have to match what Simon Murray did last season. There's not going to be that pressure on him. So yeah, you're right. even if it's not like being put to him like that, I think there will be an expectation that he comes in, aims for double figures, and that should be him doing his job in his first season.
He scored a few in the Premier Sports Cup, so he's already doing a decent Simon Murray impression.
Exactly. I was going to say, so did Soufiane Moussa, and look how he ended up. So
they seem to maybe, I don't know. This is obviously the League Cup's not a pre-season, but it's during pre-season.
Yeah.
And Ross County, they got the 12 points, but they chopped and changed their team. Something else. I was looking through it. There's different, like hugely different sides in every single game. And like the Lammy went off injured. Some people might say good. Like, you know, that's he went off injured in the last game.
I think Lammy's getting a lot of haze. Just steady enough centre half for a bottom 16.
Because what you're looking at, what would it be?
Right.
Would it be Nightingale, Lammy, and then Akil Wright?
I would say when everybody's fit, I would say it would be Nightingale on the left, because that's, I think, where he predominantly played last year. Akil on the right, and they probably won't Leak, even though I don't think he's that good, because he's just got a bigger body.
And then they'll have, so then out on the left-hand side, they'll
It'll
have
be Harman or
so it's just hard to convince yourself that, I think. But again, I think we're saying if McLeod and Greaves, I'm not saying they'll play every single game for County, but they're obviously going to be leaned on a fair bit to play. So that's a big ask. 2 young players, but some young players react really well to that. So who knows?
Right, where do we have County finishing? 11th for me.
11th, aye. So Johnstone fans, they're just shaking their heads at us. We listen to this every year.
Well, we've got to them now. St Johnstone. So a dreadful start to last season saw Craig Levein replace Steve McLean as manager. Things got better, but not enough so that Saints weren't able to get themselves clear of the relegation battle. They were almost in the Premiership playoff final, but thanks to a late goal from Adama Sidibe, who was a huge signing for them in January, popping up in some vital moments. He got the late equaliser against Ross County, which meant that they didn't finish 11th. It then went to the final day, where a win over Motherwell meant that they survived for another season. However, things are looking a bit more bleak going into next season, because there's been a few key outgoings this summer, not necessarily players, with the exception of Meathoff, not necessarily players who were like, right, we absolutely have to keep him and gutted to see him go, but it's more how many have gone out that were regular starters last year, and all kind of from a similar area on the park. But we know they're going to stay up. They're the new cockroaches of Scottish football. So, Craig, if they're going to stay up, how are they going to do it?
Probably changing the manager and signing better players.
The age-old Craig Levein.
I'm not necessarily saying that against Craig Levein. I just think there's a new owner in there. I mean, he may very well be yesterday's man, Craig Levein, and may not be able to put it together for St Johnstone this season. But even if he is average or below par, he may be replaced because he's not.
I thought the answer was Aaron Edsel.
What you are forgetting, Craig, though, is that Craig Levein is prior for sweet talking a new owner.
Yeah, right, okay. Fair enough.
He's going to be director of football, manager, assistant manager.
Is he not this already? Because I don't think St Johnstone have like a head of recruitment.
They don't have scouts, so that would be pointless.
But I just think that you look at the players and then who've left and who have come in, and there seems to be there's either a complete downgrade or they've replaced it with potential. And I just like Meathoff for Ray, I think's a good example of that. Phillips for Essel.
Aye, we should say that the defence has been decimated, basically.
Dan Phillips is away, which looks is pretty bad.
And I was going to say they're the best defensive midfielder as well. So I Luke Robinson, I think was a good player for them last year.
Up front, they look better than some other teams, and they look better than they did last season, but their midfield and their defence is potentially the worst in the league.
He was playing 4 at the back, interestingly, Levein, during the Premier Sports Cup, as far as I'm aware.
Other than one game.
So that tells me that he wants to have the option, because I think he's going to play 3 at the back more in certain games. I don't think that's disappeared. I think he wants the option, and obviously I think he wants to figure out ways of he's always going to need to have 2 strikers in the park, because Kimpiako had a good League Cup and is shown in flashes. Kimpioka and showed in flashes in the top flight that he can maybe do something. And then you've got Uche Piezu,
who's injured in his house.
Got injured in his house. Fair play.
He's out for a couple of months, so.
And then they've kept Sidibe.
Well,
so far.
For the time being, I thought it was weird that, seeing how good he was last year, I thought it was weird that he started the first Premier Sports Cup game, him and
I've set you up.
Contagious.
Kipioka. Him and Kipioka started the first game, scored 2 goals each, and then every game after that, Sidibe came off the bench. I thought that was very weird.
Yeah, there seems
They're
to
trying to figure out a life without him. Is that kind of what?
Maybe, because there is talk that there is serious interest in him.
Swansea were mentioned,
and he would obviously
there was over £1 million as well,
and he would be keen on going if there is that interest.
Funny that.
Yeah, right. Weird enough. So that is an issue. If Sidibe goes, I mean, bloody hell, that would. Kipioka can still be in for a good season, but yeah, because it's hard to tell because he came in January and you weren't really sure about him. He showed him moments. I don't think he looked particularly great, but it could have been him getting up to speed. And now the fact that he's looking a lot sharper in the pre-season and in the League Cup, that he might have a good campaign.
You just feel like there has to be the 2 strikers, and it's going to have to go long, and it's going to have to be handfuls and bouncing balls. Have it, because even if they're playing with wing backs, not convinced. I mean, they've got Andre Raymond, who I think got injured right away.
So can I just add to that? So Levine said after the game, it could have been worse, but it's frustrating because he's not had a pre-season and we've maybe pushed him a little too hard.
Oh, Craig, not again.
I should have probably left
the sand dunes.
I should have probably left him out one of the games to give him a break, but thankfully it's nothing serious. Now, I don't think they've got another left back.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying, because it's talking about that you'd be propping in Graham Carey into
oh my god,
or moving what's his name, the guy who plays right back and sometimes goes into
Keltjens.
Yeah, in the midfield. He's not really convincing over there, never mind. And then moving him to left back, so you're a bit like,
he looks decent though, Raymond, but yeah,
Matt Smith's a guy who could just run all day. Maybe you could play him at left wing.
Again, now you're taking it probably one of the best. Your midfield's crap. So I mean, every problem that you're solving, you're creating a new one. And obviously, we've got this new. So I think they're going to have to do that, because it'd be Dre writing. If they're playing with wide players in a 4-4-2 or a 4-3-3, it's fucking like Wright and Carey. And I'm not saying they don't have their attributes, and they could swing some good balls in or whatever. And Wright could run all day sometimes, but there's no fucking pace. And there's none. You can't even play in a 4-4-2 when there's nothing wide that can go dribble passing. What is just Carey just going to play deep as fuck balls from 40 yards back into the box? Yes, that is the answer. That's probably yes. And someone's going to have to play with Matt Smith in the middles. You're like, really? And what have we got in the defensive option? Sanders, McClelland, Nielsen, Cameron looks like the main guy's been given captaincy right away. He's like on a year loan.
Yes, and also he's played the majority of he has played at points in the English League 1 and 2, I think, but the majority of his career has been in the National League.
Oh no!
So and he's 28.
And I don't know. And I know Joel in the National Standard was just saying. I thought a tweet about Nielsen having some of the attributes that St Johnstone could need. Nielsen wasn't really great at Partick Thistle.
I think
they put him in midfield for a spell.
He was good overall. He was good at the back, and he was good when he first moved into midfield, and it was crap in the playoff games. But I think the problem, we would say, is that at the back he wasn't necessarily at fault, but Thistle did go through a period of conceded loads of goals, and then when they moved him into midfield and put Macbeth at the back, the defence got better.
And the thing about Nielsen,
they also stopped playing Ross Stewart as a goalie, which should probably be mentioned.
Yeah. First things first. But Nielsen is I'm still.
It's a lot of responsibility for him to fall on his young shoulders.
Yeah, and I don't know.
You're our best defender.
And I don't know. There are question marks on Nielsen's sort of ability to move forward, and maybe that. His work rate possibly and training and his development is stunted a bit. The expectation levels when he was coming from Dundee United to Hearts, if him to go to Thistle and not develop a bit faster than having to move a bit, that would worry me, because the expectation would be going, and if he signed for Hearts off that, and the fucking scene that was made about him signing for Hearts, you've got to have an expectation.
I think we don't play young players though.
I think there's that, and also in terms of his Hearts career, I think this feels make or break-ish.
Yeah, probably. Maybe.
Well, he needs to go there and do brilliant, right?
He'd have to be at least average. If it's a terrible team, it's hard to blame him.
Didn't he cost us anything?
Can I ask? I'm not as well versed, because I was asking Sean maybe about your Josh McPakes and your Josh Rays, and is McPake quick? Because, for Stirling Albion, they don't have any wide. They've got, surely sign someone even. They need to go into this mode when they've got no pace, that you just sign someone with pace regardless if they're good.
Sidibe's got pace.
Yeah, but I mean, nobody's wide.
And
Someone has to.
A scary thing as well is that they do need to sign more players, but Craig Levine said that they can't really afford to. Players need to leave before
There's rumours that Craig Gordon could be coming in.
Well, why not? Why not?
That would improve them.
I think Craig Gordon can't. I mean, that illustrious career that's ended at Hampden when he was given his sort of like round of applause, and then he fucking cost us the whole. I'm blaming that the whole Euros. But yeah, like Kyle Cameron looks at there hanging a hat on him. Like Joshua Pake is such a huge jump. That has to be a project player. It has to be. And then Mackenzie Kirk, it's. For a team that's going to struggle like St Johnstone, there is no. You're asking this young striker who probably hasn't cut out for it yet at all. Unless you're putting on a plate for him, he may be a goal scorer, but he's not going to be able to do anything else.
I saw a lot of St Johnstone fans saying,
seem excited,
saying that they're excited because Hearts fans are raging. They went to him, no, please. It's Hearts fans being idiots because they saw him score loads of goals in the 5th year of Scottish football and couldn't make that mental jump that if he was playing for any other team. If he was like 25, if he was an overage player, Hearts fans would not be getting excited about him scoring that many goals. It's because of his youth, because of who his dad is, and because it's the B team thing. You're willing these young players to be good. He went on loan to Hamilton. He didn't get a sniff because he's not that good.
And now he's at St Johnstone.
Yes.
And as I said, they're strikers. I mean, it's not stupid. Going with guys like Ikpeazu is because it's not all just about goals.
No.
It's handful because he knows that he doesn't have a lot in other positions.
Mackenzie Kirk could be good if you give him chances on a plate.
But that's never going to happen at St Johnstone. I mean, they'll barely create any. They're going to, the strikers, I feel like, looking at the makeup of the team right now, like I've been saying, it's going to be, like, they're going to have to just be handfuls and make shit happen between whatever the pair is up there with balls just being flung into them. It's that simple.
Predictions?
That has to happen. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Craig?
Yeah, has to be. I mean, although it is difficult to make these predictions because everybody was saying this time last season, and to be fair, they started under Steve McLean like they were going to go only one way. So that's you can change things and the rest. But right now, again, the squad manager that they have right now,
that's the only thing you can go by.
Football is always in flux. The Scottish Premiership, when you're talking about it before August has even started, that's a different level. So yeah, it is hard to predict. But you're saying 12, Tony's saying 12, I'm saying 12. So Johnson, congratulations staying up for another season.
Aaron Cox, Brookhouse College.
He's away on loan already.
Brookhouse College.
The Forfar.
St Mirren.
They're signing players from below Forfar in McBeak.
No, they were in League One last year.
I think he was just exaggerating.
St Mirren.
I just say stuff, man.
Our final team in this closing in on 2-hour podcast. So last season, the Buddies returned to European football for the first time since the 1980s after Stephen Robinson steered his side into 5th place in the league table. They were able to do this by carrying a really great start to the campaign all the way through. They did kind of drop off a little bit, but they still picked up. Yeah, but they still picked up.
You had them 3rd.
Yeah, sort of. They only finished 5th. I mean, come on, dropped off a
by fucking miles.
Two positions,
and they were lucky to never finish 6th.
But they did pick up some results along the way, and they managed to just get themselves there at the end of the season with a European place. And there's been a little bit of movement this summer, but I kind of like some of the stuff they've done. And I don't mind the...
Let's kick off with the big man, eh?
Yeah, Sean Rooney's back. Yeah. And that's kind of a main thing. That's the main thing while I've got St Mirren staying in the top half, is that I am thinking about Scott Tanser with the best crosses of the ball in the league, hanging balls up to the back post for Sean Rooney to attack.
Yes, it seems...
Do it every game. Do it every attack.
Tanser was on the bench against Valus, was it? Last week?
Valor.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but it's Valor.
I thought it was weird.
Surely the idea when you're bringing in a wing back like Rooney and you've got a wing back like Tanser, surely you're thinking a very deliberate mindset of how to do it. And I was just like, well, who are they playing first? For fuck's sake. Not Sean Rooney
after
back.
Europe, though.
Not against Hibs.
I suppose.
Yeah, just like, not Mr. Rooney again. I'm already picturing Jordan Abita getting caught under the ball and Rooney fucking rifling it in or bulleting a header in. And we've got another returnee. I mean, Rooney, I don't know how did Rooney get on down south? He couldn't have done that great if he's back at St Mirren. That's brutally honest.
I don't know him personally, but I think they had a wee bit of a tough time under Scott Brown before he left, and I could not tell you how they've done since.
And then, I assume if you can get Rooney even remotely back to his best with the galloping runs and all that,
exactly.
And we see the ability to attack the ball.
You've seen that happen so many times before, where a player hits a peak in Scotland, goes down south, doesn't quite work out, comes back up and still the same player as he was before.
And you have to say as well, you could maybe say like he's replacing Ryan Strain. However, Ryan Strain didn't really play an awful lot last year, so it's not even like
very different wing back. Yeah, very different.
So it's not, it's a very different wing back. But in terms of just kind of overall quality, you maybe make the case that like Strain's a better. Well, you probably can make the case.
Strain's a better footballer, but Rooney's probably going to have more impact.
That Strain's a better player than Rooney, but when Strain wasn't playing a lot last year, then that's kind of almost a moot point. The main thing I think is maybe the main problem that might knock them into the bottom six is goalkeeper, because Zach Kemen was very good on loan last year, but he is not returning. Instead, they've signed Ellery Balcom from Brentford. Now, he does have a bit of experience. I think he's about 24. He's had various loan spells, and he finished up last season in League One, so could be a solid enough replacement. I did get a bit of warning signs when Robinson was being quite kind of effusive about how he's going to give them a different dimension in attack because he's really good with the ball at his feet. I'm just thinking, well, if you've signed a goalie,
you've changed Robinson.
If you sign a goalie who's really good with the ball at his feet, that just makes me think, well, what's he bad at then?
Yeah, why? Because if
being
he's
a goalie, maybe.
Well, that's true. Because obviously, if a goalkeeper is really good with his feet, if he's a decent goalkeeper, you think this guy's going high. Because obviously, in this day and age, it's such a sought after attribute. Craig Cairns. Alex Iacovitti back in town.
I think he might be decent. I think was it Taylor was very good last season. So I think
he started very good. He kind of tailed off a bit.
I think with Gogic, I think they still look decent.
So Gogic back in defence again. That's where it just changes every year. So I'm assuming that Gogic is going to be back in defensive midfield.
It was defence last season, so he'll be defence again this year.
But it changes every year with Gogic. Whatever position he's the season before, he moves into the other one, and you go, but why didn't we know he was always a defender?
Well,
why didn't we know he was always? It's always what
Robinson
happened.
loves him in the centre back three, so I'm sure he'll remain there. And also, they've got a fair bit of cover in midfield. But
So Gogic, Taylor, and Iacovitti back three, first
no,
choice.
It'll be Marcus Fraser.
So
it'll be Iacovitti or it'll be Taylor on the left, I would say.
Yeah, so they're the ones. Marcus Fraser always.
As we said, there's decent wing backs there. I think Boyd Munce is a good player. O'Hara.
There is interest in Boyd Munce though, so that's the potential problem if he does go.
Well, he's injured though, so maybe that'll work in their favour. He's out for 2 or 3 weeks.
He's going to be out the Hibs game.
He's out for 2 or 3 weeks. Kilty and McMenamin are out for the foreseeable.
They're out for a long term.
That's stinking.
That's a big problem. So they need.
They don't really like McMenamin as much as.
Aduwa's looked pretty good though.
So Aduwa is the kind of attacking midfielder to come in and play, especially with Kilty and McMenamin out. They also, I think, need James Scott to start looking like James Scott did when he last played under Stephen Robinson.
Mandron will probably score goals for him. Olisanya was a good option off the bench. I think they're going to be a solid enough team.
They've also brought in Dennis. Fuck's sake, how are these names, man? Adeniran. Dennis Adeniran.
I can't even find it.
Dennis Adeniran! Good name.
He came in, he's kind of more of a high energy guy.
What team did they sign in from, Craig?
Hapoel
Petah Tikva.
For fuck's sake.
Yeah. I'll just say, Jayden Brown, he came in like you say.
Came in from Israel. He was once formally signed for 7 figures by Everton. But
that fucking means nothing. They're playing against a fucking guy that they signed for 45 million, and he was a. Can you say that allegedly? Was he? Was that? Who is this? Gylfi Sigurdsson. He bought him.
I think he might have been cleared to the charge. He dropped. I can't remember.
Cleared to the charges, but ends up playing for an Icelandic team.
Can't remember, but he's not coming. He's not coming to the UK.
Is he not playing? That's an absolute score for St Mirren.
It was announced a few days ago that he's not travelling.
I know, no further action was taken in 2023.
Yeah. I can't remember exactly what it was. There was.
His lawyer said he would not sue British authorities over the investigation. Okay.
That can stay in.
So I'm going
to have to take it one word.
Because he's we've not done that in a long time. He's
a roar.
Everyone knows what I mean. That's a score for St Mirren, though, him not turn up, because he could just pick a shot for 30 yards or whatever.
They should be alright in that second leg. Their goalkeeper got man of the match in the first leg.
I'm just hoping for extra time, man. Get those legs heavy.
You'd fancy them
to take an ascendant team at home. Sure,
Aye, exactly. Aye. I mean,
Please.
Scottish teams have done
Scottish football
worse
needs it.
in Europe. Was it St Johnstone? Did they draw away to an Armenian team and lost at home or something like that?
Yeah.
It was after beating Rosenborg as well. So I mean,
No, that was Minsk.
so okay,
but
was it the
that's-
season after I'm thinking of then because they were in
They did
were
have another
in 3 or
terrible
4
result.
seasons in a row,
Alish
wasn't it?
Kerr beat them as well, did they not?
Right.
So
okay.
right now, but I mean, going into the early part of the season, if you're saying that Boyd Muntz is out, obviously they've got rid of Bacchus, who I'm not saying that's a bad idea for money, but,
Again, he was kind of.
but I'm just talking about options. They've no Boyd Muntz, Quan's away, Keanu Bacchus isn't there.
Gogic will be back in midfield.
So maybe
then.
Gogic will be back in midfield for.
You're desperately proven right on this.
No, it just
He's
happens.
going to be back in midfield this season. That's your big prediction.
No, but it's just that, like that sounds like in terms of
Quan as well.
Quan, that's what I mean.
Anymore,
The early season part, there's quite a lot of people missing from the central midfield area.
There's a lot of this team I'm a little unsure. Well, not a lot. There's parts of this team I'm a bit unsure about, especially with the injuries. However, I do have just a lot of faith in Stephen Robinson that he's just going to have them playing.
Last time I saw Xavier Robinson, he was screwing up to fan.
That was the last time. That was in February.
I know.
That's a big thing, though. I mean, whether
Again, I just say whatever I want.
we were talking about this today about the first manager to go and looking at the odds, and Stephen Robinson might be a good pick at 10-1 because
Just get poached.
he's the most likely to get poached out of all the managers, I'd say.
Because he's the most English lower league manager.
Yeah,
that could
exactly. I
possibly
think
live.
somebody like Tony Docherty probably is happy at Dundee. He lives in Broughty Ferry, has done for like 19 years.
Oh,
or something
I say
like that.
people move.
Like,
Yeah,
he can
yeah,
just
yeah.
move there for
Visit.
it. No, him living there and is he going to
think
want
Naismith- I think
is he
Naismith-
going to want to gamble to go to an Aberdeen and then his job's got a 6-month shelf life or something like that? You know what I mean?
Like
So-
maybe build a quote unquote dynasty at
whereas
Dundee
Robinson
within
would
relative terms.
maybe make that jump. I don't know.
I think Stephen Naismith's a possibility for first manager to go for kind of similar reasons, that because of his playing career down south, if Hearts start the season well, especially if it's a big result in Europe, then there's going to be championship teams that are like, maybe give him a shot.
They take Shankly with them and it all falls down like toy soldiers.
Fine for us. We can
And there's no
put
fucking
money in our coffers.
What's his name's away? The
What are coffers?
I don't know.
Why do we say it?
I don't know.
Anyway, predictions. St Mirren.
So where have I had
We only got one left on it.
I'm going to go for 6th.
That's what I've got. Have we got the same league table?
I think we pretty much have. Yeah, do we actually have the
I
exact same
think
league table? I've got.
Hibs and Dundee United might be round differently because you had Dundee and Dundee United next to each other.
Yeah, I had Hibs
I've
7th.
got Hearts 3rd, Kilmarnock 4th, Aberdeen 5th, Hibs 6th. Who did I have 7th?
Do you have Dundee?
I don't know.
I'm moving Dundee down to 8th, and I'm having St Mirren 7th.
There
That's
we
what I'm
go.
doing.
Right, that'll do us. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for
Just
those
hopeful
watching.
world I live in. Oh, Hearts, Aberdeen, and Hibs are back. Never happens. There's not been a season it's ever happened. No, that did actually.
Yeah, a couple
Under
of years
Johnson,
ago.
yeah. Finally. Yeah, it's happening again.
We're 3rd, 4th, and 5th.
Yeah. Had to spend through the fucking nose to do it, like, but
Right, that'll do us. Tony, very, very much thank you for fucking that.
Very much
Been
anytime.
talking about tours, can't do this. I don't know how Telford and Sean do it for 7.5. Craig, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you to everybody, and we will talk to you again after the first round of fixtures in the Scottish Premiership. Unless you want to hear more for us, and then just one more plug for the Patreon, patreon.com/terrace podcast. I need to stop now. My voice is just giving up.